Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Grace Lauren Taylor, and you are listening to episode 46 of the Trauma Dump Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at the Trauma Dump Podcast, we seek to answer the question, what is mental health? How do I take care of my own, and how do I support others? This week, we will be discussing the topic of coping tools for trauma with our very special guest of the week, Kieran Scott. You can go follow Kieran Scott over on all forms of social media. It is at Kieran Scott Box. That is KIERANSCOTTBOX. So make sure you go check him out and support him for being on this episode. He is the lead singer of Ashton Crown Band and Death Collector Band. So he is an amazing metal singer. Dude, I'm going to have a lot of his stuff linked in the description. Please go check him out. Support him because he has a lot to say in this episode, and I'm immensely appreciative of him for being on this podcast. And remember, if you'd like to share on the show, please message us in our Discord in the podcast participants channel along with your unique experiences, and we will match you to the right episode. And just a quick disclaimer before we start, I am not a licensed health professional. This podcast only seeks to create community and further understanding of these topics that are so often overlooked and extremely misunderstood. If you or a loved one are in need of medical professional help, we have links in our description. The topics discussed here are for a mature audience, so viewer discretion is always advised. Just a quick reminder, guys, before we start this episode, please like this episode. Please share this episode with your friends if you're enjoying it. And please subscribe to us over on the Trauma Dump Podcast YouTube channel. So today, we're talking about coping tools. Coping tools for trauma. So, trauma, all encompassing, is whenever you go through an experience which may be physical, mental, emotional, whatever, and you are affected by that said experience so greatly that it changes a lot of your regular normal functionality. You are unable to function normal. So you can have intense or unpredictable feelings. You may be feeling anxious, nervous, overwhelmed, or grief-stricken. You may also feel more irritable or moody than usual. Changes in thoughts and behavior patterns. You might have repeated and vivid memories of the event. These memories may occur for no apparent reason at all, or may lead to physical reactions such as rapid heartbeat, sweating, and in my case, seizures. It also may be very difficult for you to concentrate or make rational decisions. Sleep and eating patterns are also affected with trauma, and they can be very disturbed. You could be eating more, or you could be eating less. You could be sleeping a lot more, or you could be sleeping a lot less. Sensitivity to environmental factors are also something that happens with trauma, like sirens or loud noises or other environmental sensations that may stimulate memories of the disaster, creating heightened anxiety. These triggers may be accompanied by fears that that's stressful that may be repeated. They can also have some strained interpersonal relationships, such as increased conflict, more frequent disagreements with family and friends, coworkers included, and you may be feeling isolated. You may start to withdraw from others or be disengaged from your usual social activities. And you can have stress-related physical symptoms, such as headaches, nausea, and chest pain, which could require more physical medical attention. Pre-existing medical conditions could also be affected by trauma. So today we're going to be talking about trauma and how we can cope from trauma and how we can move towards healing and recovery. So let's get into this episode. It is lovely to meet you.
Likewise.
Oh my goodness. I'm Grace.
Hello, Grace. I'm Kieran.
Hi, Kieran.
It's honestly, I'm really grateful to do something like this. It's something that I've always wanted to do, but no one ever asked me. So when you dropped in my inbox, I was like, brilliant, perfect.
Oh, well, I'm glad that I'm the first podcast to reach out to you. That's awesome. That's
Because
amazing.
it's always metal affiliated because being in
Oh,
bands and stuff. So I never get anything else but that, which is again great. But we are multifaceted individuals, and it'd be good to explore more aspects of who we are and the reasons why we do it.
exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. Dude, we are multifaceted. That is so interesting. So, t tell us about who you are, where we can find you before we get into this interview.
Yeah. So I'm Kieran Scott. I'm a vocalist in death metal bands like Death Collector and Ash and Crown. I'm also a multi instrumentalist, producer, now social media person. People like to say influencer, but you can find me Kieran Scott Vox on everything. Like it's just a general kind of thing, and I'm trying to build like a platform and sort of like identifiable thing. So yeah, you'll find me everywhere. If you like music, check me out.
Hell yeah, dude. Oh, that's so exciting. Definitely go check him out. So, it's so nice to meet you, Kieran. Welcome to the Trauma Dump podcast. Before we start this interview, like your pronouns are he, him, yeah?
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with sharing your personal
Oh
experiences.
yeah, completely. I'm a very open person.
Okay, good deal. And if I ever say anything like off kilter or ask a
Nope.
question that's too deep, just let me know. I can always skip it. We can always move on. I pre-record all of these episodes to protect my guests. So if they ever
Of
say
course, yeah,
anything
yeah.
that they're like, "Oh wait, hold up. I said that person's name. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, of
want to I
course.
don't want
Yeah.
to share who they are." I can always edit anything out, and I can always stop the recording if we ever need to take a break to go to the bathroom, get a glass of water, you know, whatever
Of
we need
course,
to
of course,
do.
of course. But yeah, like you, but yeah, I'm yours. You got me. Right.
Awesome. Okay, Karen. So, we're going to be talking about coping mechanisms, coping tools
Yeah.
for trauma. So, my first question would be, what type of traumatic experience have you had in your past?
So, um, since I was a child, I'm on the ASD spectrum, so it's autistic spectrum disorder. So I grew up in a environment of dysfunction and not being good enough and being not normal and being ostracized out of class in school, being ostracized from medical preventions and help, purely for financial reasons. So I was homeschooled by my mother, and my mum taught me everything essentially of how to exist, speak, like how to read, write, because the school said I couldn't read or write. My mum went, yeah, you can. And, and she took me out of school and taught me everything I needed. But ever since I was like born, at the same time while I was experiencing this growth of my individuality, my father was very ill. So like he had it's known as an aortic valve replacement when I was born. So like he was very out of surgery when I was a lot like just not even one. So um and he went through that, and then he had heart failure for the rest of his life, and even till now, like, so he's still with us somehow. I have no idea how, but so that was my kind of upbringing. So it was hospitals and being the man of the house, whatever that was. And because of my spectrum disorder, I wasn't like, I guess, emotionally disturbed or affected by it as much as in a way that some kids would have been. I was more accepting of the fact. I was like, well, that's that. This is this. That's how it is. So, it's like go to school, come back from school, do chores, things like that. Take the dog for a walk, see my dad in hospital, take him up pajamas, just those sort of normal things. My mum worked, and she was the household. She was the man of the house, as it were. And she did everything. She was the breadwinner, and she was the teacher, she's the educator, she was the support network. And at the time, my sister was going through a lot of mental health problems, because her father, separate from my father, basically abandoned her. So I helped her out a lot, and I helped her out a lot as I was growing up, because of my mum's education, the way she taught me to be and her independencies. I would become like very good at advice and listening and doing the right thing, and because I've been taught what you should and shouldn't do, what's moral, what's ethical, and that was kind of like that upbringing. So, and when I got into teenage years, I went to secondary school, or was a senior school. I'm not sure what you call it in America, but and during that time, I was developing as a young person, as a young man, and I didn't suffer too much bullying, which I was lucky for. Mostly because my sister had my back. If anyone said, she was older than me and in the same school, so but but also I was also the special kid, right? I was in what you would call special education at that time, but I wasn't also officially in special education. It was like you're kind of, but not completely full. So we're not going to give you support, basically. So that's my, you're not mentally struggling enough. You're not disabled enough. You're not, yeah, I know it's insane. So I grew up with that, but luckily, again, because my mum homeschooled me and taught me so much, it allowed me to be, in my opinion, more developed, more intelligent, more articulate, more critically thinking than I would have ever been from a school education. Now, that's not everybody; everyone is different. But I think because of my specific needs and my learning difficulties, and my mum knew how to cater towards them, it allowed me to develop into I think, because I'm going to be self-centered and egotistical on that one. I think I'm a good person, but then of course, right? But I think that helped me growing up in that kind of hardships, being responsible for my parents, and helping and giving them advice, and as well, because at the end of the day, even though they're your parents, they're still human, they still make mistakes, they still don't know things, they still things, and quite a few profound moments I've had with my parents where I've given them advice, that I've given them support, as a young person, 16, 15, 17. So that was my upbringing, so that's what I grew up with. When I was about from 16 onwards, I had what is known in the people with ASD spectrum is the awakening, which is basically where your hormones are working as they should, and you're developing those neural pathways you didn't have before. And everyone has at different ages, but for me, it was 16. I woke up. I was like, right, I'm self-aware. Like, I can't explain it, and so I become more articulate, much more more conversational, like confident, and then I went abroad. I went to America by myself. From 16 years old. I went to New York, Maine, South Carolina, Georgia. I explored and discovered new experiences, and luckily I had no negative experiences when I was in America, which was pretty great at that time. I'm 32 now, so this is a long time ago now, and that was amazing. And then as I got older, I started to experience bad relationships, and we've all had a bad relationship, right? Because I don't think like most people. I tend to be too logical, which can be difficult for some people who are looking for that emotional reassurance and confident. And so they'll come to me like, "I've got this problem," and I'll just be like, "Cool, here's your solution." They go, "I wasn't really looking for that. I was more of just looking for support." And I'm like, "Oh, ooh." So I learned as I grew older for that. But where my traumas, as it were, really started to affect into my life was when I was 18. So on my 18, I was about 18. I think it was literally like 2 months after my birthday. I got an eye condition. It's an eye disease, and it was called keratoconus. Now, a lot of people have it. It's not that uncommon. A lot of people have it on the spectrum as well, people with Down syndrome, things like that. So it's definitely some sort of interconnection between bad signaling and hormone and development. So what it does, it makes your eye into kind of a cone shape, like a rugby ball or American football for you, and it will cause vision distortion. Now, normally it can be corrected with glasses and things like that. I decided to have the 0.4% chance condition variant where my eye exploded into blisters. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And basically, the front of my eye flooded with water. So the front of my cornea flooded with all the water that was. So the membrane at the back of your eye, which controls the water flow in your eye, and it went all the way to the front. This condition is called corneal hydrops, and micro blisters just start forming because of the pressure. And I know men aren't good with pain, right? This was single-handedly the worst thing I have ever experienced.
Of course, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah. I just it come to the point where I couldn't go ow. I just sat there going, ah, ah. Right, and when I went to the hospital and they gave me some painkiller eye drop things which hurt like hell, but they helped afterwards. Then the doctor then proceeded to explain to me that my life would be changed forever. My eyes are only going to get worse. They don't have any prognosis. They don't know if my left eye will follow suit. They don't know if I could have surgery to prevent or help because this condition has very little research. There's very little help. Normally, you can get help from an early age. And I was 18 years old, right? This condition where I was at, you do not normally get till you're 40 or 50 years old. And I had it at 18. And the doctor looked at me and went, I can't do anything for you. And I was like, oh, good, fun. So I said, okay, so what are my prospects here? You know, jobs, future, career. And they went, nothing to do with us. Like, and that's fine. They're doctors, whatever. So I was like, as a young man, just turned 18. I was going to join the police service in the UK at the time. My granddad was a police officer and he was a community police officer as well. So, meaning he was an officer that knew everybody in the local community, knew them by name, knew their children, knew their parents, you know. So, he was a great guy. Loved that man so much. And I looked up to him. So, I thought, I want to be like him. And never had that opportunity. So, that was a difficult time for me to process that because I just wanted to help people. I thought if I was in a position of like that element of power and influence that I could actually make some sort of difference. I was deluded. As I got older, I realized being a policeman is just being a corporate stooge for financial interest. But as I was naive 18-year-old, I didn't know. So as I got older, I went through a lot of mental health issues from that. So about 18 to 20, I was struggling. Really, I was depressed. I also was drugged out of my mind because they gave me painkillers, right? So they gave me cocodamols. If you don't know what the equivalent of cocodamol is in America, but it's essentially like it's like legal morphine almost level of addictiveness. Like you can get addicted to these. So I was having 6 a day, and there's like 200 milligrams each, and I don't know what reality was I was in. I couldn't feel, I couldn't think, I was numb. The closest thing I could explain it to is like an antidepressant. Mm-hmm. And it was just horrible. So I remember just because also with this condition is sun sensitivity, light sensitivity. So I spent the entire time just the windows, so the curtains shut, blackout curtains. No, can't go outside. If I do, I have to wear special glasses so I don't get like extra damage into my retinas. I know. And so I went through all that from about 18 to like 22, and eventually after about a year and a half, 2 years, the condition receded a little and it got less painful. The blisters went away, and then it found its sweet spot. So my right eye is the one that's got the corneal hydrops. So I can only see like blur. It's just intense blur. It's like frosted glass because all of the inside of my eye is scarred, completely scarred. So it's like frosted glass with marbles and just all integrated and twisted. So I've become effectively blind in that eye. And then the year after that, my left eye started to get it as well.
Kieran.
Luckily, it stayed okay. It's so I've got about, I think it's about like if you had to put out of 100%, 40% left. So I'm not completely blind, but I'm half. So luckily, I've got enough vision to function and just do daily tasks and things. Is it easy? No. I can't read things. I can't see facial cues. Like, so if I'm talking to someone, I can't see if they're frowning. I can't see, unless it's obvious and they're like,
yeah,
so, and I struggled with that, but I lived with it. I had a moment of epiphany when it receded down and I didn't need to take the painkillers anymore, which definitely helped. and I had time to think. And during that 2 years, there was a phrase that my mum taught me that stuck with me.
Mm.
It's, you cannot control what happens and who does things or what and why they do things, but you can control how you react to it. And that stuck with me, as well as some education that I did personally, because I was stuck inside a lot. I did a lot of research into philosophy, existentialism, absurdism, which is absurdism is basically nothing matters because we give all meaning to everything in our lives. And who says we are right? It's a very arrogant thing as humans to say that we know what everything is. We didn't create it. It was here long before we were. Do you know? Like, so I do enjoy that. Like, so like being conscious and having instinctual things and having brains, like that's not unique just to humans. And we have a very arrogant kind of perspective on consciousness. And I think I had like I always had dogs growing up, and I always look at dogs and I'm like, they don't care about anything. They can experience traumas, they can go through bad things, but as soon as a dog experiences a change of environment that does not continue that unpleasant behavior, the dog will forget it, and it will never come back. And that's that. I used to think that's fascinating. I used to think that was absolutely fascinating how a dog specifically can just go, like it went through hard things and then it has that trauma and it's continuous reality to that dog until the environment changes and then it goes instantly.
Yeah.
It blows my head. I people don't understand that about dogs. Like people go, oh, he's had a bad past. And I went, well, no, he's had a continually bad past. It hasn't stopped in his brain. That was the consensus of reality. Until that change of environment, it wouldn't stop. So I took that into very literal kind of extent. I know a dog is a strange thing to base kind of an coping mechanism on, but I thought it had an inherent truth to it.
I wouldn't say that it's strange at all because I've raised dogs my entire childhood. I was
So
very fortunate.
Yep.
Yes, I was very fortunate because I live in Texas, and Texas is slowly becoming like a second California because all the people from California are migrating to Texas because we don't have income tax here. So everybody's like, we gotta go to Texas. This is pretty crazy. So I love it here. Truly, truly, I love Texas. But we have a lot of people migrating to Texas. But again, I was fortunate enough growing up that we had a bit of land in the city. So I was not far away from anything. And still we had like 4 acres of land, like in a neighborhood where there are like houses like together. And so the reason why is because my dad, when he was in high school, bought the house and he bought the lot next to it because they had just torn down a house and then he bought the lot behind it. And so he's like, this mine now. Before he even got married, before anything, he was a planner type man. And so I had dogs growing up. My family would go to parks and stuff, and my dad was like, dogs just always find Grace like she's a Disney princess. And so I was just taking dogs. At one time I had, I think, 6 or 7 dogs, like all together.
A pack.
I did. And they all loved me and they were all really, really obedient. But dogs are really attuned to whomever they respect. And they're really able to help regulate the emotions of whomever they respect. And for me, one of my biggest coping tools for any of my trauma is my service dog, Gigi. And she'll lay on top of me, and her breathing helps me calm down and slow down my own breathing whenever I'm having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And then if I'm having a seizure, she alerts me before they happen. She'll bring me down to the ground and then she'll lay on top of me to try and regulate me. And if I can't regulate, then I'm having a seizure. She's preventing me. She's holding my body down so I'm not going to hurt myself anymore. Dogs are amazing.
They are.
They're fantastic. But I just want to give that little tidbit. Keep talking about
because you know exactly what I mean then. Like so Dogs are very, very like simple but deep creatures that I think we don't deserve dogs sometimes. You know what I mean? We don't. But yeah, so that's anyways, that sort of like kind of like philosophies and concepts. That was one that really helped. One of the other ones as well, which is existentialist absurdism. So existentialism is just the world outside of yourself, right? So this is existential, meaning like, whoa, I'm third party to this existence I'm in. Wow. You know, and absurdism is nothing matters fundamentally. Like we give everything meaning, like words. What I'm saying right now is only understood because we've said it means these things. Otherwise, unless we say it has that meaning, it means nothing. I always say this, like, you know, like with absurdism, do you know Diogenes?
Diogenes. Remind me, I probably do.
Right. So he's a Greek philosopher as well, sort of, where he was absurd. Like he didn't care. He's the one that lived in a barrel.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And Diogenes was just like, his whole concept was like, oh God, who cares? Nothing matters. Like literally, like and think about it, in Greece at that time, everything was just, but why? Wow, thought, provoke. And he was like, who gives a shit? Like, you know, and he realized very quickly that nothing matters and we give meaning to everything. So there was that one where there was I can't remember the name. I think it was Plato, where he said, like, you know, we were like walking birds or something. And he's just like, so he just like plucked a chicken and threw it into the thing. Like, look, a man, you know, and it was, he was just so absurd. I can't quite remember the story, but that's kind of the gist of it. But, you know, and that was thing. So that really helped, was just like, every time I got into a loop of just like, oh, fuck, everything's terrible. Everything's horrible. Oh my God. And then I'll be like, yeah, but nothing matters. And who says I'm right? Like, of course I'm going to say I'm right because I'm self-centered. That's it. It benefits me for my biases to be confirmed, because otherwise I have no other excuse or reason for why I'm being self-centered. So like, and that was one of the things that I used to get into and then get out of. And after a time, I trained myself to stop doing it. I stopped being pitiful to myself. I was like, yeah, but literally I could choose just not to be. Now, denying your emotions is not the same thing. Like, your emotions should always be embraced and understood and communicated, always. Because if you repress them, we've seen what happens to people that repress their emotions. They're not with us today. So, and this is one of the things, but that really helped me going through things. And one of the other aspects as well was impermanence. So in Buddhist philosophy, they have a concept of anti-materialism, which is, materialism is the things around us, the things we touch, the things we possess. They're all inherently attached to the ego and they're extensions of ourselves. Now, with Buddhism, they were like, look, we don't need these things. They are literally don't matter. When you die, you cannot take them with you. So if you practice in regards of like, these things do not matter, they don't matter, as long as you are happy and try to be happy, then that's what you should be focusing on. Not materialism, not money, not how many girlfriends or boyfriends you can have, not how many views you've got on YouTube. None of that matters fundamentally when it comes down to it. And the reason it's important to remember this is that when you don't have all of those things, when you don't have those views on YouTube, when you've been broken up with, when you've lost your parents, when you've lost your friends, it's you on your own. And if you haven't built that stable coping kind of mechanisms and acceptance of your reality, it will crash on you. And how many people do you know that's happened to? Like, it's crazy. And people put their all into one thing while ignoring the self-care of everything else. And that's something that this generation, or I say this generation, the younger generations are getting right. They're getting it right. The older generations have done no self-care and they are mentally unwell and undiagnosed. They are. I mean, look at the state. I mean, look at America specifically as well, but the UK as well. The mental health of over 35s is insanely bad. They're either incredibly like zealoted fundamentalists, or they are fearful. They're so scared. They're scared, you know, and they see the younger generations going, let's talk about our feelings. Let's talk about these traumas. And they're like, why has everyone got emotions? This didn't exist when I was younger. Yes, it definitely did, because we're witnessing it now of you having a mental breakdown over somebody having pronouns. It's like, I don't think you're mentally well. Like, that's not normal. No, you're not normal. I mean, nothing is, but all right. But, like, anyway, I digress. I went a little bit off kill there, but within regards to like mental health, yeah, like, and philosophy definitely helps. I personally think. I don't subscribe to any religious ideology. I do think there is an inherent correctness between the intent of all religion. I just think that they get it so wrong, as humans do, because we're wrong all the time. And the problem is with fundamental ideologies, which is I'm always right and nothing, and it's just infallible. That's dangerous precedent. That's to protect their egos and protect their coping mechanism, which is a book or Sky Daddy, which is fine. Everyone has their thing. They're absolutely allowed it. They're allowed it, and that's the thing. And I will defend their right to have those things. Doesn't mean I don't think it's stupid, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
who says I'm right? But who says I'm right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're right, and they'll get the last laugh. But sometimes it's good. It's easier to be kind than to be callous, right? But yeah, so coping mechanisms and trauma. So there's a couple of more traumatic experiences that happened in my life.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I should go back to them because it will make more sense as I move forward. So when I was 23, I believe. Wow, yeah. I got into what I would describe as an altercation. I was assaulted by a group of men who they attacked me without me looking. So they hit me on the side of my head. I was drunk at the time. I must clarify this is information. I was plastered. And say in the UK, I was paralytic. So I got punched in the side of the head, which I think might have helped after all. And then I was knocked to the ground. And when I was on the ground, they proceeded to stamp on my head. Now, luckily, I've got a hard head. So they broke all of my jaw, all of it. It snapped in half, snapped up here and snapped up here, knocked two of my teeth out. Luckily, my eyes were not affected. Because I mean, they assaulted a blind man is essentially what they did. Do you know, an irrelevant, or because I did tell them to leave me alone and go away, and they didn't, obviously. And so I was hospitalized and I had to go for emergency facial reconstruction surgery. And they have welded my jaw back together, and surgeons are incredible. Like, wow. Like, they did it in a day. Like, they got it straight in, bang, boom, into surgery, woke up the next day. But there is a funny aspect to this, and this you'll understand my points of view. So after I got knocked out, essentially, I got up and was like, what the fuck was the point in that? I don't care. I don't really have much self-preservation, I've discovered. And I was in a pizza place. Right? So I got my pizza and walked home. Right? So I walk home with this pizza, deluded that I'm going to eat this pizza. It was ricotta, spinach, something else. It was feta. It was good. Oh, such a good pizza. I walked all the way home with it. I paid £18 for that pizza. That's $24 to you.
Oh my
right?
God.
Walked all the way home with it. Got home, and then the adrenaline wore off, and my face, blood just pouring out my mouth. And at the time, I lived with my mum at the time. I was only 23. And I was like, Mom. She was like, what? Because she just woke up. This was like 3 a.m. I was like, I might need to go to the hospital. She was like, why? She walked out, and there's just blood all over
my
me.
Lord.
Right? And all over my pizza box. She's like, why is there blood all over your pizza? And yeah, so this is going to surprise, as an American, this will surprise you. So we don't always ring ambulances when there's been an altercation, fights that. We'll ring the police, and the police will come and take our statement, what happened, then take us to the hospital, and then directly give us to the emergency department, and they'll take it on immediately. If we called an ambulance, we'd have been waiting for hours potentially. See the difference here? Like that, I don't know if they do that in America, but they do it. I don't know if it's the same.
No, the police don't really ever take you to the hospital. That's a very, very rare case.
Yeah.
And in Texas, sometimes the police don't even come if you call them.
It's a big place.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes they don't come. I called the police one time because my car got hit by another car and they never came. And I called them several times. And then the commissioner called me like 5 days later and he was like, so we heard you got into a car accident. Do you need us to take a statement? I'm like, yeah, I actually really do. I needed you. The guy drove off after 10 minutes. Like,
Thanks for your expedient speed. It's like, but yeah, it's crazy, man. But yeah, so the police took me to the ambulance, to the hospital, and they admitted me in. And the thing is, as you noticed, I talk a lot. I have what my mother describes as I wish I never taught you to talk because now you don't stop. So
hey, I think you have a great voice. And hey,
I
it's
think
a
so too.
podcast. We need you to talk. I
Yeah.
honestly, I want to stop you for like 2 seconds
Yes.
and say thank you, thank you, thank you for talking so much because sometimes I have guests on that don't talk enough. And
Oh, I
it
see.
hurts my heart sometimes, especially as an editor, because I'm like, yes, I'm the host. Yes, I do want to share my story, but this podcast isn't about me.
Mm.
So
It's giving platforms. I get that.
yeah, so I really appreciate you.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
awesome. I'm grateful again to be here. Like it's nice to talk about this stuff. I've only ever mentioned it in passing, or if it was relevant. I've never really spoken about it on like a platform like this. So that's when you reached out to me. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot to talk about, like loads. Anyway, I was like, yeah. So hospital in there, and I talk a lot, right? So
Mhm.
I'm in the A&E department, and the guy, the doctor's looking at me, and he's just like, "What? You got a broken jaw?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "But you're talking." And I was like, "Well, yeah, doesn't stop me because I can do this. I can talk without actually opening my mouth, which is really weird." So I was just talking like that the entire time. And he's like, "Are you talking though?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Trust me, it's broken. I can't feel it. It's gone
Mhm.
numb." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So they scanned me, and he went, "Oh my god." He's like, "Right, we're gonna have to book you in immediately." It's literally snapped in multiple places. They were like, "We need to do it now," because, and he went, "Shut up, stop talking." I was like, "Okay." He said, "You cannot move your jaw for the next hour." I was like, "Okay," because what I could have done is you get like splinters of bone, and he said if I kept talking, I could start severing like nerves with those bone splinters. I could start, yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll show it then. And this is the worst part, right? So I'm waiting post like pre-op in the bed, waiting for it to get to surgeons and things. I was there like, oh, this sucks. I got a hangover coming at this point. I was like, oh. And then the nursing staff ordered a Domino's. So not only did I
They
get not get
ordered pizza.
yeah. So not only did I not get my pizza, I was starving with a hangover, smelling Dominoes in the bed, feeling sorry for myself. And I sat there and I went, no, I get this. I deserve this, evidently. I just laughed. I just couldn't stop laughing because I just loved the horrible irony of that one moment. Then I had the surgery. And then for the next 6 months, I had this, like, can only describe as braces in my gums, into the gum, like a wire, like into it to hold my jaws together while it was healing with the metal plates. All right, now, again, not squeamish, not a squeamish person. I can take pain. That hurt. Oh my God. So, and I couldn't eat. Now, I love food. If you ever like pay attention to it, if you add me on like say Facebook or Instagram, all I do is cook different cuisines from around the world. That's all. I try new things. I love trying new stuff. I couldn't eat for 6 months. I had to eat through a straw. I had to eat my mum's lovely dinners that were incredible and in like little pastes that I could barely like. And then yeah, that sucked. That was the only time I would say I've been completely, absolutely depressed. I was like, it was stuck. But there's a silver lining to all this because apparently I need one. During this entire time, I was getting more and more into metal and music. You know, yeah, I was finding it as an outlet more and more, and it was hitting resonance in me, like lyrically. Like there's a band called Gojira. Gojira are very, very, very good. Like their lyrics are incredible. They have a song called Esoteric Surgery, which is all about self-building and self improvement, right? And there's a song, there's a lyric in it, and it goes, "You have the power to heal yourself," and I love that moment in the song, and it's a very powerful moment because it's on about like I don't know where I am, don't know what I'm doing, don't know how, don't know why, but I know this one thing and I have the power to heal myself, you know, like I can do this. And I found that very encouraging. So I was like, right, that kind of like spurred me. And I thought, man, I should try doing vocals when I get my jaw better. Right. And I always thought I'd wanted to try it, but I never tried. So I was always like trying a little bit. And that's what set me through. It got me through it. And I was like, right. And I was like reading all these different lyrics, different bands. I was writing songs and ideas. And then as soon as it come off and I could do things again, I was straight into a band pretty much like immediately. Actually, I'll tell you what was traumatic as well was the actual uncoupling of the metal bars in my gums with no anesthesia, like wire cutters, just and then they pull it out. Sorry, I'm enjoying watching you scream a little. Sorry, I was a bit morbid of me. Anyway, so pulled them out, literally pulled them out, and I could feel it going. I was like, ugh. I was like, yeah. Best way I can explain it. When your hands get wrinkly and they're wet and you rub them together, it feels horrible. It's like that in your gums.
Oh Lord.
It's horrid. It's fucking horrid. Anyway, so went through that, and the first thing I ate was a gigantic pizza. That was my middle finger. That was my, do not go gently moment. I was just like, no, pizza. And it was the best thing.
Best thing. That's awesome.
Oh, it was the best. And then my career, well, my attempt into music started, and I learned to produce and practice, learn techniques, follow YouTube. But because of my problems with my jaw, I had irreparable nerve damage. I can't move my tongue and my mouth the way that some people can. And I had to kind of rebuild and learn and get better at talking. I had a speech impediment for a while. And, so I was devout to getting better, getting this like vocal ability down. I wanted to have a way that I could be understood. And I worked so hard. I literally every day, all day, and then, yeah, so we went through all that, and then I joined my first band, National Crown. I did have like projects and stuff before, but they were nowhere near established in any shape. But National Crown was 2016. I joined that band, and yeah, we've played festivals and we released a record, and it was incredible. It changed my life, for the better. And I was a nobody. I didn't know anyone. I purely self-trained. I had no favors. I had no shoe-ins. I didn't know anybody, and I would argue somewhat obnoxiously forged my way through irrelevant of what people say, think, and do. I'll take criticism. I'll take feedback. Yep, not a problem. But nothing stops me. Nothing. Nah. I've been through enough. Nothing anyone can ever say is ever going to make me doubt myself, ever. Like, when you be through stuff like I have, like that, it's going to change you. It will make you go, it's either make or break. It's either you become a victim or you go, no, I'm doing it. This life's short. It's fragile. It's very brittle. And if I don't get hold of it now, it's going to leave me and then I'm going to be full of regret. And that's the thing. So I can look back on my past, even though I didn't have the future prospects because of my eye condition and the lack of job opportunities. I created my own career in music. I created my own thing. And again, as part of some sort of defiance, I also got into graphic design, right? Which is oxymoronic with someone who has 40% vision. So my art style is what you would call in the art world impressionist, which means I do an impression of what art is. So I have a unique style, and I've done artwork commissions, logo commissions. I've done album artworks, t-shirt designs, posters design. I'm still doing them now. And then I got into more aspects because I wanted to do more, because apparently I didn't have enough to do. So I was like, man, I should do videography. So I did. I started making music videos, lyric videos for bands and for my own bands and other people's bands as favors. And then I thought, man, I need more stuff to do. So then I became a promoter, and I started promoting bands and putting on gigs. We just did one yesterday in my local town. It went really well. It was great. It was a great night. We had a band called A Pig Called Eggs.
Called Pickled Eggs.
Yeah, A Pig Called Eggs, which is a pun on blacksmithing, pig iron, and iron eggs. A Pig Called Egg. Yeah, so they're a local band to me. brilliant. I had a band called Illyrian, which I designed the logo for. They're a thrash band. We had a band called Emissaries of Sin. About them yesterday. So I just thought I'd give them a quick shout out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an excellent part of the process of like, just getting involved in this industry, in this world that is just no rules. There's no rules in metal. There's no expectation. You can do what you want. You can write what you want about whatever you want. Deep controversial subjects you can write about, mostly about politics or emotional traumas or the fear of death or mortality. Metal is just a treasure trove of expression where you don't get in the mainstream at all. Like it's sometimes when they touch upon things like mental health, to me it comes a little bit just unrelatable. I'd listen to like some things and that's fine. People can relate to it and that's valid, absolutely. But like I'll listen to, I don't know, like freaking Ed Sheeran do a song about being sad and I'm like, I don't connect to this. This isn't, I don't know what that feeling he's describing is, and I'm not saying he doesn't have moments to be sad. Of course he does. He's human. We all do. People seem to think because you're a rich millionaire, you don't have emotions. I think that's insane. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of millionaires, billionaires that don't have any emotions because they're sociopaths, but neither here nor there. But and so that was the thing with metal specifically that I gravitated to. The community is incredible as well. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to a metal show. Like,
I haven't, but I really, really want to go.
Do it. It's the most comfortable you're ever going to be. Like right? You'll go in and it's chaos. There's just people flying everywhere and people headbanging and like pitting and having a great time with their arms around each other and laughing. Banging, listening to music, and the band's going crazy or doing mad stuff, or like depends on the genre. And at that moment, nothing matters apart from that moment. See, like you get that at every gig, but specifically metal shows. It's not about what's going on around your world. It's about that moment you're all together, and it's almost like religious. It's almost like religious kind of effervescence. Like, oh, we're together. The difference is we know it's music and it's not real. It's just expression. And but yeah, so metal shows specifically for me are just untouched. Like I've been to, I like all sorts of music. I'm a music producer, so I make like electronic music. And I like, kind of ambient sort of like relaxing things. Like one of my favorite artists is Boards of Canada. They're called Boards of Canada is a 2-piece Scottish electronic act. And you have definitely heard their music without you knowing. Like they are on films, series, they're on like adverts sometimes, or things like that, commercials as you were. And so their music is very prevalent in our culture and in our society. And I found them and found a profound darkness and beauty to their music. There's an album called Tomorrow's Harvest, and it has some of the most moving music I've ever heard. Now, that's personal to me. It resonated with me. It was dark, serene, beautiful, but also a little bit kind of optimistic. There was an optimism to that dark, serene world, and it created an image through the writing and the flow of the album that by the end of it made me feel peaceful. And it's indescribable and hard to explain, but that's pretty much the fundamental of it. I'd recommend you listen to it and see what you think.
I looked it up and I'm going to link it below for everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. It's for me, that album spoke to the dark aspects of my psyche and but also it spoke to the more optimistic and absurd sides of me, and it spoke to the peaceful, serene and seek of beauty, like the seeking of beauty, the seeking of feeling. And it really, really appealed to that part of my brain. Again, not for everybody. Someone listen to it and go, I don't get it. Like, but that's the subjective of our experiences as humans.
Okay. I'm linking it down for those that want to check it out. Tomorrow's Harvest.
That was 2016 that album came out. You can see in the timeline 2016, and that's when I first started doing music, and then that just resonated with me. If anything, if they ever see this, Boards of Canada is the reason I am into music at all. Like they got me completely into music, like everything about it, creating it, being in it, and expression. It's actually kind of funny. So every year, wouldn't be anymore because I don't subscribe to Spotify anymore. I was the #1 Water Canada listener in the world
What?
for 5 years in a row. So it come to a
Bro.
point that even they started seeing it and were like, Jesus Christ, this guy. I was just like,
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
I used to listen to it all the time. Like when I go to sleep, always put it on. It's just it just sends me. I'm like, yes, existential dread, yes. And I'll go to bed with that kind of feeling of serenity, and then wake up and be like, I think it does something to my mind when I'm going to sleep. I don't know, but
Yeah, I fully understand that because I do have a artist that I listen to all the time that helps me out very,
Mm.
very much. I'm gonna give like a quick shout out to them. I'm also a singer. I've been a
Oh
professional
wow.
singer since I was 3. I've been in professional choir and stuff like that.
Oh, you're legit then. Yeah, choirs are
Yes.
legit professional singers.
Well, yeah. And I also teach voice and acting lessons now online for
Wow.
people, and
Oh, that's
it's
amazing.
so much fun. I love teaching pedagogy. It's amazing. But Half Alive is one of my favorite bands. They are
Half Alive. I'll check that out now.
amazing. The favorite song that I really resonate with is Creature.
Ooh,
And
okay.
it's like, I am creation, both haunted and holy, made in glory. That's one of my favorite songs ever. And I'm actually teaching it to one of my students because I feel like her voice would go really well with that song. So I'm just like, girl.
Wow. Sorry, you just took me aback then. That was really good. It's
Thank
like,
you.
wow. Oh, I got a little shiver then. Oof.
Yes, it's such a good song.
There you go.
It's
So
so
there you
good.
go. I've added it to my title.
Good.
So I love the artwork. That's amazing. Wow.
Yes. I
There you
love
go.
Half
See,
Alive.
this is what it's about: sharing music and coping mechanisms. It's like this will
Yeah.
help you. Trust me.
Oh,
Like,
it really will.
yeah, but like voice acting is, I've said to you before, is something that I really want to get into. Like being a metal vocalist, I can create mad sounds, like
Hmm.
and things that just don't sound human. Like shit like that, right? Just just strange sounds and voices. And
Hmm.
because of that weird kind of acrobatic agility with my larynx and head voice, false chord, I
Hmm.
can do all those things. And what it led to me be able to do voices for characters. And it's what I used to do as a kid. And I didn't know that. When I was a kid, I used to watch Inspector Gadget. Do you remember that?
Yes! Oh my God!
Yeah. So,
Inspector Gadget, go, Gadget, go. Yes.
go, Gadget. Yeah. So I was a kid watching that, and I used to love Claw. Is it Dr. Claw? Yeah. I was like, go get you next time, Gadget. And I used to do that as a kid. And I was just there going, oh, yeah, you next time, Gadget, when I was a kid. And I never knew why. My mum never knew why. And then I started like doing copying and mimicking because I guess I'm on the spectrum. So I guess I was like, I'm going to mimic everything I see. It's like, so I started mimicking characters on TV. And that's, I think, has a massive contribution to why I have this weird vocal range where I can go, that's really hard, strange, I don't really know why. And really low, just like
That sounded like Stitch. I love
Oh,
Stitch.
I can do Stitch, no problem. Yeah. I could do all sorts. I mean, if you ever get bored, you can just go do this voice. I'm like, yeah, sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
but that's one of those things, and I found my voice was inherently my way of communicating my experiences into the world. So hence metal vocals, screaming and people coming to watch me scream with a bunch of distortion in the background and smacking on drums in different time signatures, and everyone's like, yeah, that's how I feel. It's like it's
Hmm.
absurd, and I love that. I find metalheads to be the most absurd people, and I love it. It's like we're all vibing on this aggression and finding some sort of solace in it, and I find that fascinating because the world is aggressive. It's an aggressive place. It's dog eat, literally dog eat dog, as the term is. And a lot of music doesn't quite explain that, you know.
Mm.
And I think we have a lot of anger as humans because all the things we can't control, we get angry at. Like I can't control people dying. I can't control war. I can't control people being horrible and racist and sexist, and transphobic. I can't control that, and we get angry. We're like, just stop being horrible, but it's at the end of the day, this is the problem. They're free to do it, and that's what makes us who we are. We need that freedom of expression, because if we take that away from people, then so it's a hard line in controlling our emotions and frustrations in a world where we are the age of information. We have everything at our fingertips, all the horrors of the world and all the beauties at the same time. It's why everyone's so and essentially I called it like we're socially bipolar now. But in a way it's by choice. We can do it by choice. We can just not look at the things on our phone, and then we'll not ever see it, or we do, and then we have a very completely 180 of experience and emotion to our everyday life. And what I discover is most people struggle with their mental health is because they are living two lives consistently at the same time, and they don't know how to cope with it. They can't cope with it. And they lean into one more than the other, and they lose their identity. And so you see all these social media people that get millions and millions of followers, and they keep doing the thing that got them to that point. And then they're just like, what the hell am I doing with my life? This is fake. I don't care about this. This is a performance. I'm doing this just for gratification, for likes, views. And then they crash, they break, because the person who they really were when they started doing these expressions, social media, funny things, arts, skits, social mobility, they had that, and then they lost themselves. And then they crash.
Yeah, and it
Every
makes me
time.
think of Jenna Marbles.
I'm not sure who that is.
She was an amazing YouTube creator, one of the first YouTube creators. You probably have seen her before.
I probably have.
She would make these really crazy videos with her now husband, Julian. And she was beyond famous, and she was just so relatable. And she fed my soul. She was a comfort person that I could watch and just have her videos on in the background while I'm doing things. And it was really helpful. And I really started to recognize a decline with her videos not her videos she stopped posting. She did eventually stop posting, but it felt like she wasn't finding joy in what she was doing anymore.
Yeah.
And all of these people, she stopped eventually for, her own mental health, and she just stopped. And I'm honestly so proud of her, because that takes a lot, first and foremost, because that was her whole career was on the internet.
Literally, yeah.
And secondly, there's a lot of people, who have this parasocial relationship with her, and they were like, why did you leave us, essentially feeling abandoned, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I couldn't explain it, but I felt an overwhelming sense of peace for her, because it was like, wow, she's finally able to live her life. She just got married. She's doing what she actually wants to do to feed her soul and to live her life. It is her life. She doesn't have to be on the internet. But her husband, Julian, still does Twitch streams and stuff like that. So I'll tune in every so often, because he actually cares about his community that he has built with Jenna. And he'll just talk and share what they're going through. And I'm like, those are real people. Let them have their real lives outside of the internet. Just let them be.
It's difficult. So what you touched upon it's the cult of personality. It's basically this is capitalism's fault. Ultimately, we have created people into consumable products, and when people become consumable products, they become convenient, and they're a service to that person that absorbs that content. So what happens is, in people's brains, as you like yourself, it become like a friend to you. It was someone in the room with you, and that they see that as a breakup. When that person leaves them, their coping mechanism's gone. But that's not a coping mechanism. That's a dependency.
Mm.
And this is the problem. This is the massive problem. And you can see this in politics, even like the cult of Trump is what it is. It's a cult. No, it is. It's a cult. Right.
I know.
Fundamentally, it's a cult, but whatever. They need him because they think they do, not because they actually do. They are terrified of the prospects of a world without something that they have committed their lives to, or that they've consumed the media content of. Because you don't have politicians anymore. You have media personalities. And it's all about what they can sell you. What's the best sounding things they can say? How funny they are. How gotcha moments they've got. Not their policies, their politics. Nah, that doesn't matter. As long as they're entertaining. I must admit, during that whole period of time when Trump's presidency, during his things, before he became president, us in the UK thought it was the funniest thing ever. You got this guy just coming out being like, arrest her. We were like, I mean, we agree, but what? Like, I know. And he was so just ridiculous. And it was entertaining. And people fell for it. People thought he was a YouTuber. That same mentality. He's funny. I like him. He makes me laugh. And he spoke to people. Whether people acknowledge it or not, and this is a problem, I would say, American politics specifically, where people acknowledge it or not, he spoke to an entire generation of people. And not because he was relatable, it was because he wasn't a politician of corporate interest. He wasn't a politician of APAC. He wasn't a politician of, like all of these foreign interests. He was just him, a dysfunctional, sexist moron. Like he would I say he's a bad person? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think he's a monster? No. Is he capable? Yes. Oh yeah. Right. But apart that, and he still needs to be held accountable for his actual crimes. But moving forward,
I need to let my dogs inside. Give me like 1 second.
Yes. No
They're
worries.
banging on the door, and I don't want them to rip my door.
So while I've got you here for a little while, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. Like, nothing happens.
You want to see them real quick?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay, this is Mochi.
That's adorable. That is a gorgeous dog.
6 months old, and then Gigi. Gigi, turn around.
Hi, Gigi.
Hello.
Oh, that's great.
And then that's our cat, Loki and Lucy.
Loki and Lucy.
Yes, there's Loki, and then Lucy.
That's amazing.
But yes, those are quick little animal cam. They're good babies.
Yeah, they're good dogs.
But yeah, we were talking about the cult of Trump.
In a way of mental health as well. So people relied on that as an outlet for how they're feeling, which is confused, angry, and scared for the future. And like all things, the snake oil seller presented an idea which they never believed in, but they just wanted the attention. Now, let's take that exact mentality to a YouTuber. There's no difference at all between him and Jenna Marbles in that regard. Like, she created this content, she had a following, and she became reliant. He, in sense, created his own monster that the people gave, and now he couldn't stop. He is a victim of his own success, right? And his success was insane how he even got there. Like, but whatever, and the problem is with being a consumable product instead of a person is I'm not trying to humanize Trump enough here, but I think we should. I think he had no idea what was going to happen. He was just there talking absolute bollocks, as we say here. He doesn't know. He didn't believe anything he said. Like South Park nailed it, where Cartman was like, I think was it Mr. Garrison? Yeah, Mr. Garrison was like Trump, basically. He was just like, fuck them, fuck everyone. Everyone's like, yeah, and he's like, why are they believing this shit? And I just think they kind of just inherently spoke about a dark subcultural or energy or mood within America of this fear and just of change, of the future, and it just, they clung to him. Now, in America, I won't get too much into this, but in America specifically, we need to acknowledge that the evangelical Christians were the reason he got into power. Like, absolutely. fundamentally.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no other reason he got into power. He didn't win all the votes. He was thrown in, right? Because they thought he was, what was it? Oh, who's that man? It's in the Bible. He was basically like a bad guy, but he was sent by God for a good reason. So it's all good now. They compared him to that guy. And like Trump was the reincarnation of this fucking guy. And it was insane. It was, yes, we know he's touched up women and he's done horrible things and he's essayed people. But, you know, like, so this guy was bad too. And that, you know, and Jesus loved him. And I was like, the gymnastics these people have to do. But he fitted a narrative. He fitted a purpose, which was the new world kind of New Jerusalem evangelicalization Christian zealot cult in America. They thought he was the chosen one, but look at this. Look what's happened to America since. They're still trying to dismantle what he's done, but not what Trump's done. It's what they did. They put themselves into those positions of power to pass all of these laws that they're doing now. See, even though the Democrats are in power, it means nothing because the seats and the lawmakers have already been put in place by these evangelical Christian groups. So that's like Turning Point and those other ones. And they've affected politics as a whole. Now, this is for all the people that think this is terrible, the world's ending, what a horrible situation we're in. I have news for you. Just like a wolf backed into a corner fighting for its last breath, it's desperation. The reason they've done all this is because they know they've lost in regards of the ideological wars, as it's called. They know that being their sect of Christianity and their ideological Christianity and Christianity as a whole is on decline in a massive way, as all religions are. And that is why they are all so aggressive. They're so fervently aggressive right now because they realize their time is up. They know that the consensus of the world is changing. There's more and more atheists, more and more critical thinking kids growing up. The TikTok generation, as I call them, are the most informed generation of kids ever. Now, are they the most intelligent? No difference to other previous generations at all. But they're more informed. That is the difference. They're not getting their news from digestible, bite-sized things of Fox News and, you know, Sky News, BBC News. They're actually getting it from the source itself and making their own mind up, which encourages critical thinking skills. And one thing I love about social media, like all ideologues and ideologies, it needs to be combated. And as soon as it's combated and it retains its like idea and keeps moving forward, that is then eventually becomes a consensus of idea. Right? That's how we get like murder is bad. We all agree. You know what I mean? But people go, yeah, but. And that yeah, but meets this the conversation. And then if that murder is still bad after that conversation's happened, it solidifies that as true. So that's how we work as people.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. So TikTok specifically, of all of the social media, why they want to ban it, is allowing kids and young people to share ideas and information and educate each other about real stuff, not what Paris Hilton's doing, not who Joe Biden fell over. It's more of like, what's happening in Congo? What's happening in Palestine? And we are seeing it in real time. We're not seeing the news version of events. We're seeing the real stuff. And that's why you've seen everyone go, oh, this is bad. That's why you're seeing protests, because they're now informed of it. These protests would be minute compared to what they would have been without TikTok, for example. And I really do mean that because, you know, I've got a following on TikTok now, about 12,000-ish. It's not a lot, but it's something. And what I discovered was by being on TikTok and sharing information is that I learned so much about world events that were factual from TikTok than I have on any other thing ever. And that freedom of information, which is what the internet was created for, is incredible, but dangerous for religion, dangerous for religious groups, dangerous for religious corporate-based corporations and ideologues and political movements. And that's why they want to get rid of it. So if you think everything is bad, trust me, it's worse as it's going to get. We can only get better from here. And that sounds deluded, I know. But these religious groups, this happens all the time. It happened in the 80s. It's happening again now. This is their last hurrah. This is their last try at trying to keep control. We all know they've lost it. They've lost the people. The people no longer believe. And the only people that believe are the cult of personalities, the people that are brainwashed or delude themselves that they need it, because that's now become their coping mechanism to deal with the fear of the future. Yeah, sort of thing. So just thought I'd say all that because I think that's something that I think about a lot. And I can
Yeah.
understand how it would affect people's mental health. But I know
Yeah.
it sounds optimistic, but trust me, this will be over soon.
I
Trust
just
me.
want to like add to, the cult of personality because I grew up in a very conservative Christian household.
Oh, so
Um,
yeah, so you resonate with what I just said then.
yeah, I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
do. I was raised to be a wife and a mother, nothing else.
Ugh,
That's how I was raised.
I know.
And so I um am very domesticated, I will say, very much so. And and I mean this in the sense of I can do my duties, quote, quote, very, very well and very efficiently because my mother is a narcissist. Like, this is diagnosed, she is one, and she has severe bipolar disorder.
Oh, wow.
And she refused to do any household work ever, ever, ever. Like, she said that's why she had children for. That's their job. And so when I was growing up,
Wow.
yeah, I have two younger brothers who I love very much, and they're becoming very good men. But my father owned three companies, so he was always working. And my mom would homeschool us off and on. And I also have learning disabilities. So I resonate with you on that. I have severe ADHD and I also have dyslexia. And so I would struggle sometimes in school, especially with English and math. I have
Spelling, right?
yes, spelling
Mm-hmm.
sucks so hard.
Isn't it?
Oh, I can't spell for shit ever.
Yeah.
I can't read the way normal people read. I just memorize the words. I
Yeah.
can't sound things out. That doesn't exist for me. That's
Yeah,
not a
you
thing.
are, by definition, that is dyslexia. Yeah.
Yes,
I also have dyslexia as well, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
vibes. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So I can't do maths at all.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do multiplication like at all. I've tried like literally like years and I just can't, it won't retain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's for me. And so my mother, Mochi Wong Vermillion, chill out, dude. It's Mochi's full name. She's
that's an
crazy.
amazing name.
Chill out. Chill out,
Actually,
pupper.
familiar.
Chill. So
Brother,
I
chill.
know she's being so crazy today. Look at this. Look at this. She's like annoying Gigi on purpose. Hold up. You can't see. There we go. She's pulling on Gigi's. I'm gonna put them out again because Mochi's being a little dingus. Hey, Mochi Wong.
A
Out.
dingus. I love it.
Come on. Both of you. Out.
I'm
Go.
enjoying this.
Go. Gigi. Go. Gigi says she's not leaving. So, but Mochi's gone. So the antagonizer has left.
One out
Anyway,
of two is not bad.
yeah, and Gigi is unproblematic. She went to college with me. She's never done anything wrong in her entire life. What are we talking about? Oh, yeah. So I went to 14 different schools growing up, and my mom,
Wow.
whenever she thought that I was struggling in any school, I would be removed. So every semester was essentially a new school.
That must be difficult for you. Always
It
having to
was.
readapt constantly.
It really was. And I have no foundation of friends. I started discovering that, I'm an adult, I'm getting married next year. And I was like, I don't have the ability to create sustainable friendships. And that is really, really sad. I have the ability to connect with people. Like, that's
Yeah, of course,
something I
absolutely.
had to adapt and overcome and be able to, introduce myself. I'm very good at that. But it's very hard for me to retain friendships because that was never modeled for me. It just never was. It was never modeled
Yeah.
that I should also be checked in on by people. And the people that I pick are people that seem interested in me, for a little bit, but they don't stay that way. So I was like the phenomenon of the new toy. At like whenever you bring a new toy to a daycare, all the kids want to play with that one new toy, but the novelty of that toy wears off. And that was me as a kid, because I would be transferred to school, and everyone would be so excited for a new kid.
A new kid. Yeah.
And then once that novelty wore off, it was very hard for me to retain, those friendships.
I can see how that would. Yeah, I can see how that would create a difficult for developing like a good social life, like completely.
Oh yeah.
I have a question for you, and you can tell me if I'm a little bit intrusive on this one. So, I spotted something. Have you always dealt with all of your problems alone?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Because I noticed in some of your language you were isolating in your language, like, oh, I'm on my own. I am doing this by myself. I don't have friends. Yeah. So basically, because you've always had to deal with all your problems by yourself, you've developed a bad coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is you think people don't also want to spend time with you, and
and
when you're at your worst, especially, right? You think you're a burden, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because also my mother would tell me to my face that I was a burden.
I absolutely saw that coming. Yeah. So who says she's right?
She isn't right. She's wrong. She's 100% wrong. And
absolutely.
I've completely cut her out of my life because she made
By the way, just before you carry on, that is massive. Separating and creating your own control from that trigger, like trauma trigger, is incredibly good to do, because you have took full control of that. Now, at any point in time, you could reconnect that if you felt like it. But the fact that you could and don't, that's down to your control, is very self-affirming, and that gives you that identity and control. So very proud of you for that. Very proud of you for that. That's difficult to do because people get codependency with trauma.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'll get into that. Yes, I'll get into that really. So my mother, Mochi screamed. Mochi! Mochi! You're okay. What happened?
I just want Mochi now.
You're okay. Who hurt you? Who hurt you?
I want strawberry Mochi. Strawberry Mochi is good.
You're okay, child.
Matcha Mochi is good as well.
To be held.
Got chocolate in it.
I'm sorry. She needed to be held for a second. I think one of the cats bit her because you wanted to play with them. It's okay. You just need to chill. You're gonna be okay. All right. So, as I was saying, so I had a really, really good relationship with my dad. My dad was my rock. My dad was everything.
Was he the consistent person in your life? Yeah. Did he ever did he ever confront your mother?
No.
Yeah, I saw that coming. See, this is right. Okay. Can I challenge one of your ideologies of your father here?
Go for it. Go for it.
Your father is complicit to the abuse your mother gave you.
Oh yeah, he is. Oh yeah.
Now, the reason I say this is because my partner, she went through something very similar. And she used to make excuses. I love my dad. He's amazing. He's my rock. I went, no, he was the only consistently normal thing in your life but he still let you down. And she couldn't accept it for a year. And then eventually it clicked. She went, oh my God. I was like, yeah. I was like, what? He allowed her to do that, and he shouldn't have. And he punishes himself for it, and I don't want to intrude or assume to know your life, but I spotted that as soon as you said it. I went, I wonder if you're the same. Yeah. And all I'm going to say is that obviously you know your dad, you know him, you've spoken to him, you've obviously talked about all this stuff, but like, as long as you have communicated that to him, then that's all you need to do. Like, in regards of what you owe him, is that all you have to do is go, you let me down, blah, blah, blah. I still love you, but I understand the circumstance. You lived it too, right? So, of course.
Yeah. Well, she abused him too. Oh, no, you haven't imposed anything, because this is the Trauma Dump podcast. We talk about it. But
It's all interconnected.
Exactly, it is. So my mother basically parentified me and made me third parent to my siblings, and would isolate herself in her bedroom and actually installed locks on the inside of her bedroom so that we couldn't get in. Because as
Jesus
children,
Christ.
we got really good at lock picking. Like, Assassin's
I
Creed, we
love
developed that
that.
lock picking skill. We got really good. She would install new locks all the time. We were so good at it. And we were so good at doing like bobby pins. We would like file this down the backs of earrings. Like, we
That's
were
amazing.
intense. So she was a very horrible mother. And she would always promote herself as being like the best mom because she would host these, really great parties.
Oh,
Yeah.
performances, as we call them.
Yeah, she was a performative mother. And
Yeah.
when I was about 15 years old, I tried to commit suicide. And it was right after my parents' business had burned down. And in
Oof.
my little mind, everything was going to shit. And I had also just been raped the week before. And I tried to talk to my parents about that, but they were Christians. And so
Course.
my
Yeah.
entire life, I'd been told that, my value was in my purity. And if I wasn't pure, then I wasn't valuable. And so that essentially spiraled to me trying to end it.
Absolutely. Right. In their ideologue, you're now not worth even having around anymore. You've lost your worth, your value, right? Which is, again, it's a very capitalist Judeo-Christian evangelical mindset. It's
It
like,
really
your
is.
value is intrinsically connected to your ability to procreate. That is a Christian religious like brainwashing. And it's also the oppression of women, right? This is why, Roe v. Wade specifically has been so really important moment in American history, right? So, and I'm very glad that you're sharing this with me as well, because I suppose when I say it's hard to talk about, well, it isn't hard to talk about because you've dealt with it, right? You can talk about these things, and I'm not going to be sitting down here going, "Oh my God, I feel so sorry for you." Oh my God, because it's no point. You've been through it. Like, I can't imagine. You know what I mean? So, by me saying like that, I just find it. Sorry, I just thought I'd quickly say that because sometimes if I don't react to like something horrible you just said, it's not because I don't care. It's because I've accepted that's happened.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I've
trust that you've
accepted
dealt
it.
with it. If you started crying right in front of me, like, I'll be like, right, you need consoling, right? But because you were like, this happened and that happened, I go, right, well, she's dealt with it. So, and,
Oh, yeah.
and I respect you as an adult, so I know that you have. But
Yeah. And my biggest coping was therapy. And I've worked through it with my therapist and
I'm
done
glad you
all
got
of that
help.
work. I did. I got help and I got medication. So I was doing really well. But essentially, when I was 15, tried to commit die. The police were called and the police were looking into my mother because they could tell off the bat that she was abusive. And
Yeah.
so she got mad about that. And my dad got mad about that because they're like, oh, she's not abusive. So they sent me away. They sent me to live with my grandparents for 6 months.
It's probably the best thing that could have happened.
I love my Mimi and Papa. Like, legitimately, they are a cornerstone of who I am as a person. And so, yeah, it was the best thing ever because I got an outside perspective on this is not normal. Like, I shouldn't have to do everything for my mother to function as a human being. Like, she doesn't even function normally. I shouldn't have to do everything for my family to function. And so, essentially, fast forward, 2020 happens. I was already in uni. I went to university, Texas Tech, and I was a theater major. And my mom said, "Oh, I'll only pay for your college if you come home every weekend and clean." And so I said, "Okay," which is stupid because it's a 5-hour drive to go back
But
and
also, college is expensive,
it is expensive, but it's also really stupid because it was the only
It was,
college that she would let me apply to because she went there before.
So control, got it.
Yes, control. And so the first weekend I didn't come home because I had auditions. I was a theater major. And auditions are really, really intense. It's all day. There's dance, there's acting, there's singing. It's all day long. They want to make sure that they're getting the right person for the role, someone who's committed to the work. So I told my dad prior, and I said, "Dad, I'm going to shut off my phone. Just letting you know." I first asked his permission, which I shouldn't have had to ask you. I was like, "Hey,
I know, right?
can I stay at Texas Tech for the weekend so that I can do auditions? He's like, yeah, that's what you're at school for. Stay. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to shut off my phone. Immediately when I opened back my phone, I had 53 missed calls from my mother and
Wow.
hundreds of text messages calling me a fat cow, calling me worthless, telling me that I would never get a role, blah, 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 blah. I'm just a waste of space. I'm a waste of time, blah, 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 blah. She's not going to pay for my college. She doesn't want to ever hear from me again, blah, 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 blah. It's just this
A lot of
craziness.
projection. Yeah, a lot of projection. Yeah.
A lot. It's just crazy, just insane. And so who's throwing up? One of you is it? Which one of you is it? It's Gigi. Mochi, leave her alone. Let her throw up. It's okay, Gigi. Get it out of you. Get it out. She probably ate grass. She does this
dogs always
almost
do that.
every single morning. She'll eat a shit ton of grass and then throw it up.
Yeah, it's for digestion. It's the stomach acid. So it's like taking an antacid, basically, for dogs. Yeah.
She's crazy. These dogs. Anyway, so I was at Texas Tech and my mom essentially cut me off and didn't want anything to do with me. So 2020 happens. Yeah, 2020 happens. And I'm in a rehearsal and we get the notification from the teachers that we're going to be going on break for 2 weeks because of this outbreak that's happening. It's only going to be 2 weeks. We'll be back. And I immediately bursted into tears, like hysterical crying, because I was like, I have to go back home because I didn't have an apartment in Lubbock. I was still living in the dorms. I didn't have a way to get like outside of myself.
Yeah.
And I, moved back home. And within a few months of moving back home, my dad was hit by a car in front of me in our front yard.
Damn.
And he died from it a year and some change later. And my mom essentially went crazy and cut my 2 brothers, who are also minors at the time, off financially, which she had already done that to me, but she took them off of like the phone plan, the car insurance, the health insurance, like everything.
The health insurance, her own children.
Yeah, her own children. And she told us that she wasn't our mother anymore. She didn't want to be our mother. And so it was left up to me because our dad was, incapacitated, traumatic brain injury, in a coma in the hospital. And our mom wanted nothing to do with us, that I had to take care of my brothers. Eventually, I got them to a point where my uncles were taking care of them, but it was me at first. And it was horrendous.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of responsibility for a young person.
It's unnecessary because she still had the capacity. She had the capacity. And now I have no contact with her. I haven't had contact with her for over a year, and I probably never will, because to be truthful with you, she's not going to change.
Yeah,
Why would she? Yeah. Why would she? She gets whatever she wants.
If this is the reality here, and then this is going to hit. So if she makes any concessions, she then it says after you make any concessions of her behavior, that all of it also could be wrong or bad or untrue as well. And what that would happen would unravel her self-denial of that she's not the problem, it's everybody else. And that ego and that need to be correct is more important than her children. And that is horrid. That is the worst thing that she has done without her knowing. Like, she has no idea. In her brain, she has completely deluded herself to think that everyone else is the problem. And she's convinced, 100% convinced, but she knows deep down that it's not. And it's why she projects. It's why she's always shouting, lashing outwards, because she knows that she's caused this. And I do think that, and I'm not like saying like she feels bad, but I know she does. I know deep down, she's like, what has happened? She's lost so much control. She's lost so much of the things in her life. And I don't know anything about her parents, obviously, but I do feel that this is what we call is transgenerational trauma. I think her mother most likely treated her like that. I don't know that. I'm not saying, I'm not sure your Mima is the same as her mother. I don't know, but I don't know if it's the same person. But my point is that
Mimi
could also,
is my dad's mother.
there we go. That's what I expected that. Because when you said they were rocks, I was like, well, it can't be them because her behavior to me sounds like religious and like transgenerational trauma. That so she was treated like she was only useful and objects, etc. So she's passed that experience and upbringing onto you, and then now she's looking at the what we describe as the dumpster fire of her life, and yeah, I'm fine. Everything is fine. I love that. That's hilarious. And now I guarantee she feels so much regret. But she's done it to herself. As you said, she has the capacity. She's had the choice to do something about it, and she didn't. She chose to choose her ego over her children, and she'll have to live with that for the rest of her life. And she'll never see you have kids and get married and and succeed, which is every parent's dream. As being a parent, you want to see your kids succeed and be the people they are. And I know that you cut your ties with your mother and you don't want to have that relationship with her, but she's still human, like. And that's the saddest part. And the fact that she never did anything to help herself, I think's a bit sad. I just find it a bit sad.
It is crazy because she says that she did. She says, so when my dad was in hospice, right? I had come home from college, university to spend my final moments with my dad, who he wasn't there anymore. I really
Yeah.
do believe that his soul had left a long time ago. But I essentially was babysitting my dad while she was in therapy, quote, quote, in group
Right.
therapy. And she would always come back and talk about like all these other people's problems and how dysfunctional they were and whatever. And the one moment that she
Yeah.
actually shared something deep that I don't think she ever had the capacity to reflect on was
Okay.
her therapist questioned her and said, "Are you codependent?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't know." And he's like, "I think you're one of the most codependent people that I have ever met. And it is extremely unhealthy and it is going to ruin your life." And she was laughing about it to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm not codependent. Like,
Denial.
everybody is dependent on me."
Yeah. Me, me,
Like,
me. I'm amazing.
like
Yeah.
that is codependent. Oh, because
Yeah.
you need people to be dependent upon you for
Correct. Yeah.
you to feel any sense of self or anything like that. And that really stuck with me and had me a wake up moment of being like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here.
Mm.
I need to get out of here. Like everything in my body was telling me, you need to leave. You need to leave. Once my dad died, I was like, I need to leave. I need to leave. And she noticed that. And she stole my birth certificate,
Fuck
driver's
it.
license, social security card, and put them in a safe and wouldn't tell me the passcode. She changed the locks in the house. I didn't have a key to the house, so I couldn't like stay or leave or go. And my now fiance, then boyfriend, was like, I genuinely think that she might murder you. So
Mm.
we're going to leave. You are gonna pack a
She's.
day bag and
I
you're
mean,
gonna stay with me.
yeah. I mean, like losing her children and her husband and the father of it and her prospects for future and financial aspects and that's going to fry your mind. That's
Mhm.
psychotic. That will lead you to a psychotic break.
Mhm.
And your boyfriend was spot on, and hence why he's going to be your husband. Yeah,
Yeah.
he may have saved your ass. Like, and it's the thing. Like, I've seen what happens when, especially mothers specifically, but women when they have a psychotic break and they're in a position when it comes to like control and possession of children, it ends badly every time. Right. That's one thing that I really do think that needs to be talked about in women's mental health is mums.
Mhm.
Like, that terminology where women create serial killers. You've ever heard that term?
I have,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There is actually some truth to that. So they create a codependency with the male child, and the male child just believes mum is God. So mother is God in the eyes of a child. You've heard that term, I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
yeah. So, and then that person brings up this child in this codependent state where that they need the emotional gratification of the mother. And what ends up happening is that any negative or bad behaviors that the boy is exhibiting are not corrected. They're encouraged. Oh, you've done nothing wrong. You're a beautiful child. Yeah, don't worry. You might have strangled a cat, but look, you do nothing
Cersei
wrong.
and Joffrey, though.
Right. And this is the thing, like, this is so common. When you see, and take this exact principle, take it away from serial killers, take it to now male misogyny, the way they treat women, right? Everyone thinks it's fathers doing this. It's not. It is mothers doing this to boys. And don't get me wrong, my father was he's quite misogynist, but he's of his time. He's 77. You'd just be like, oh, women shouldn't drink in bars, women shouldn't swear, they shouldn't smoke, rah, rah, rah. You know, they should be proper in a nice dress and dance. you know, that's the way he is, but it's harmless, right? I grew up with my dad being like, oh, you know, have you notched your bedpost up yet? You know, oh, you know, all the male crap, you know. But women, it's just like, oh, they deserved that. You didn't do anything wrong. If I ever did anything wrong, my dad would be like, no, that was bad. You should never do that. Like, you shouldn't put your hands on people. You shouldn't hit people. Now, that's not all men, obviously, but from my experiences and the friends that I know and the men that in my life, all of their mothers were enablers. All of them. They enabled them, and they enabled really negative behaviors in those men. And they're ideologues of what is a woman, their value of that woman is based upon their mothers. So, like, for example, if a mother teaches a boy that she's always right, she's the only one for him, he's her little man, you know, things like that, right? It creates a thing that no woman is comparable to their mother. So they treat other women with disdain. Because any women that are amazing or beautiful or interesting or intelligent, they're a threat to their mother. That is something no one talks about, and I don't know why. It's like, and these men end up objectifying other women, and they ideologue their mothers in some Oedipus complex because they're little boys, their little man, you know. And yeah, this is true, absolute fact. Like, this is psychologically proven, and this is something that keeps happening in our society for the past, like, whoa, more recently than ever. And this is also partly in time because of generational trauma. Again, these mothers were either neglected, so they create a codependency with their child to feel like they have purpose in life, or their partners left them. This happens a lot of single mothers. So look at the epidemic that's been happening in the world, in America and the UK and things like that, with single mothers over codependence relationships with their young boys, and lack of boundaries, violence, emotional problems, and things like that. Now, if the man in the household doesn't make a difference, it could also be another woman in the household that doesn't make that. So whoever it is, but having two people in a household with that child is so, and you know it's important. Look what happens when there's no parent. You have to, like, fend for yourselves, stress, worry, depression, like, you know, all sorts of things will happen. And the single household is the problem at the moment. Now, you don't have to be parents. You don't have to have parents. That's not a problem if you don't or do. But the common denominator of, like, males specifically and boys, when they are growing up with single mothers, is that they become so unsociable. They become so difficult. They become combative, aggressive. I'm always right. Mum always told me so. I'm always right. The ego is insane. Like, I know personally, anecdotally, I know three men that were mummy's boys, as it's called. All of them their ego is insane. All of them. They are absolutely warped. They're deluded. They think they're God's gift to the earth. My mum says I'm handsome. My mum says I'm gorgeous. My mum says, I'm the smartest person. I've seen it come out of their mouths, and I've gone, oh God, you are a fool. I grew up with both my mum and my dad. My dad was I like my dad so much. Like, he is the strongest person I know, and he's a very inspirational person. You know, he's been through everything. You know, he's been through cancer, he's been through heart surgeries, he's been through, like, internal bleedings and hospitals and illnesses, and he's still here. He's still strong, still going. You know, and that was very powerful. My mum was a very strong person, but I never ideologued my mum. I respect my mum. And the reason I respect my mum and don't ideologue her is because my dad and my mum were both there teaching me, educating me, teaching me about the world. But if it was just one of them, I would have been a very different person. And I think this is one of those things where, as you guarantee you've experienced this yourself with dealing with men, is that you meet them and you're talking to them and they seem lovely, right? And they seem charismatic. They're interesting. They're funny. They're clever. And then when it comes to a moment of stress, they snap, right? And it's always single mother every time. Every time. My dad is quite a shouty person, right? And he's very loud. He's Northern Irish. The Northern Irish are very loud. But I've never seen him snap because he wasn't brought up by his mum ever. Like he had a mum, but wasn't brought up by him. He was thrown into the world by her. That was it. It's like, here you go, live, sort of thing. But yeah, so I don't, again, there's a lot of conjecture on my part, but that's something that I personally experienced. Now, you did just make a face then, so I'm assuming that resonated immediately.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've dated a lot of people before, I met the man of my dreams. But yeah, one time I was dating this guy, and I'm gonna fucking say his name. His name is Jonah. Fuck you, Jonah.
Fuck you,
Fuck
Jonah.
you, Jonah.
Jonah's a shit name anyway.
It really is a shit name. So I was dating Jonah when I was a sophomore in college, so second year. I could go on a rant of all the shit that he put me through. But essentially, I will admit this, I have attachment issues and I hadn't healed them. I'm still in the process of healing them, but I had not healed them at all yet. And so I really desperately wanted someone to care about me. So look at me going and picking someone just like my fucking mother.
It's what you know, isn't it? The devil you know, it's called. It's familiar.
The devil you know is a lot easier to go along with than the heaven that you don't. But he cheated on me constantly, but I didn't know it, but I felt it. I didn't know it until we had broken up.
You have instinct though,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have sex with him, essentially. I really didn't.
That's you gaining control of that relationship then.
Yeah.
And let me guess, snapped.
Yeah. He was like, well, why don't you want any type of intimacy? And I said, well, I prefer other types of intimacy and I'm struggling right now and I'm not ready. And he grabbed me and threw me against a wall. And at the time, I'm a much bigger girl now, but at the time I was very, very skinny and it hurt. It hurt so bad. But I think he shocked himself so much that he could do that he stopped. But I got the fuck out of there. I was like, oh, no. I'm not. No, you're never going to get forgiven. Fuck you. I was staying at his apartment for a few days because he lived in Arkansas. So I drove all the way to Arkansas to stay with him for a few days. I had my cat and Gigi. I was like, cat, get in the carrier now. Like I grabbed Gigi. I left a lot of stuff behind because I was like, nope, fuck you.
It's immaterial. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
I was like, I'm never coming back. I'm never coming back. But do you want to hear a voicemail he left me?
Oh, God.
I think I love how you've got
it.
It.
Like, this is just, it's too good to let go. It's like, wow.
It is too good to let go.
It's also because memory is fallible and that will keep reminding you what that actually was. Like, so if you ever, because this thing, people forget that our memories are not unflawed. Our memories are very flawed. Like what we thought happened may not be exactly how it happened, but we get the gist. And over time, you actually forget. Like it becomes different as you move on. So that message will allow you to keep that thing of like, yep, that definitely was the right decision. That definitely was a bad thing that he did. Like,
yeah,
that's a control thing for your part. You're like, yeah, no, that was definitely the right decision. Yep.
I think my phone deletes them after a few years. Let me see if it's in like deleted.
It's all right. I don't need to be a voyeur in that.
But essentially, he said something along the lines of, oh wait, no, I found it. Hold up.
Oh, good God.
What does it say? Is there any sound coming out?
Not yet, no.
Okay, wait. Can you play? Why is there no sound coming out? Because it says the transcription is please, I love you, bye. But he called me. He's like, please call me back. Please, I love you. Bye.
No, you need me. There's a difference.
And he would just keep calling and keep calling and keep calling. And it
Proving
felt
the
like
point
it was
further, yeah.
never ending. And then, I'd left all my stuff there, and it was a lot of stuff. It really was.
But it doesn't matter because you're the most important thing, and your animals.
Exactly.
You can buy more stuff.
Exactly, but yeah. I forgot about it essentially. And so we broke up in June 2020. So November 2020 comes around, and I had honestly forgotten about his existence. I really did. And I was in class, and my teacher was like, "Hey, someone's here for you. They say they need to talk to you." He was at my school.
Bro.
He drove all the way to my school, and he was like, "I've been calling you.
I know.
Why haven't you answered?" I'd blocked his number. That's why I was like going to like my blocked, because I deleted his number, blocked his number. So I was looking for like 501 number. I found it. But I was like, leave me alone. Do I need to get a restraining order? He's like, I have all your stuff in my car. I'm like, I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't care. And then the voicemail that I was trying to find was like, I'm trying to rectify this with you. I'm trying to give you back your stuff.
Like you're the problem here.
Yeah. He's like,
the narrative change. Yeah.
He's like, at your earliest convenience, can you please just answer your phone, Grace? I got a call the other day about Gigi. I'm like, who's calling you about Gigi?
No one is.
What?
He's trying to use your attachments as a way to get you to control. So that was purely a control thing. Now, here's two aspects of the things that he should have done. So if anyone's watching this and you've got a dependency problem with you're like someone you've broken up with you and you don't know what to do, if that they've seen your messages, they've seen your phone calls. If they've not responded, respect that boundary. Even if it hurts, even though you need them like life itself, even though you just lost your coping mechanism, you have to learn to respect other people's boundary, because if you don't, you will push them further away from you. Now, if you've done something horrible to them and they've left you, you have to own that. You've got to own it. Like you can pretend for a bit, you can be in denial for a bit, but like if you've done something wrong to a partner and they've left you because of it, you know why. Like, and to gaslight and to create narrative changes to that other person's experience and use things like that, it's manipulation, and it's only going to push that person away further. Yeah. So just in case anyone is having that kind of moment, and it's human, we all do stupid, irrational things. Like there's no logic to it sometimes. To err is human, to make mistakes is to be human, but he evidently didn't learn from his mistake. So continued to keep making worse mistakes, even. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Don't go back to the love bombing, because I was scrolling, I found another one, and I think the sound actually works now.
Okay.
So here it is.
I can't hear it now.
You can't hear it?
Bring it more center to the mic. Can't really hear it.
I love you.
Well,
I heard that.
Yeah,
I love
he
you.
kept saying, call me when you can, text me when you can. I'm just trying to check in on you, make sure that you're okay, make sure you're alive. Love you.
Oh,
bye.
Oh, that's gross.
And we had
make sure you're alive.
Yes. Yes, we hadn't been dating for months. So I found that. I'm gonna delete it now because fuck this dude. What? Look, watch this.
It's been a good we're healing together.
Yeah. He's gone. He's gone. I don't
Good.
need
Chuffed for
that
you.
anymore.
Let
And
it
I'm gonna
go.
delete the other one. Wait, hold up. Dude, boop. It's gone.
Wow.
Because fuck you, Jonah.
Yeah.
The amount of manipulation, gaslighting that I went through, and you kept trying to get me to come back is insane, is intense.
And also another tip for anyone else that is someone's broke up with them and stuff. Instead of trying to change that person's perspective of you, change the way you act and be, and then they may respond to that change. Do it. Don't say it. If you do it first, that person may see that and go, "Oh, okay." But if you keep saying it and requiring them to agree with you, and then you have to do it after that, that's performative and ingenuine. Yeah, so that's a huge thing. Like a lot of people don't get that. Like, I can change, and that never works because the person's like, "No, you weren't. We know you weren't. We know because you would have done it." You know. But yeah,
the saying "fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me"
yep.
is really true. And I always think of like the George W. Bush "fool me once,
You fool me once, can't fool me again.
shame on you; fool me twice, fool me 3 times, can't fool me again." I'm like, yes. Oh, I think he's hilarious.
Yeah, he was funny.
All of our presidents are on one level or another like really entertaining. They're really entertaining, and I really appreciate like at least a little bit. If everything's in chaos, let me at least be entertained, because I think that's also part of my own coping is I was a nanny to 4 boys for 7 years, and I raised them. I raised those boys. I potty trained them, everything.
Oh wow, yeah.
I love them so very much, and I'm going to see them really, really soon because I haven't seen them for a while. And I was integral to their family. And I remember when I was talking to them one day, the youngest one, who I raised from being a baby, like in my arms.
Yeah.
And he was like, "I'm bored." And he's like, "This lady at school told me if I'm bored, then I'm boring." Like, that's, I'm sorry, that's not even close to being the truth. If you're bored, that means your brain is craving stimulation and wants to do something.
Yeah.
That's the exact opposite of being boring, is the opposite of being unintelligent. It just means you are craving something to do. So let's go do something. And then later on, after we did something, I was like, there's also times where we need to accept that feeling of boredom and have the stillness and be able to rest. Because sometimes if your brain is going all over the place and you're having your zoomies, my guy, you need to take a moment and take a break and take a rest. And he's like, "Is that why you always tell us whenever we're angry to take a minute away from each other to feel that anger?" I'm like, yes, because you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel that anger, but I just don't want you hitting each other. That's all I just don't want.
Yeah, with anger, you need to process why. And if you're too busy arguing, you're not thinking why. You're expecting the other person to explain it to you. That's not how that works. Only you can understand why you are angry, unless you're a psychologist. That's about it. But yeah, so that's pretty good. Sounds like you did a good job, actually.
I miss them. That was the only, I did not miss being, paid parent, which is essentially what I was. But I do miss those conversations with them because I never treated them like children, because even though they are children, they're humans.
I agree with you, by the way. That's how you should do it. Like my nieces, they're like 6, 14, and 2. I don't, when they start becoming communicative, I don't talk to them like children. I talk to them like people. And there's a reason I'm the favorite because of it. They're just like, he just talks to us. It's really cool. But like the parents inherently are going to treat them like kids because they are, When I see them, I see them as little versions of myself in a way. Like I used to be that, I wish people spoke to me properly with candid behavior. Like my niece is 14. She's autistic. She's high functioning autistic. She struggles a lot, so I relate a lot with her, especially at the moment. She's struggling with secondary school, homeschooling. Almost like I've seen this before. And she's so intelligent, and she's so she's a very simple person, but she's quite deep, and she's just trouble expressing how she feels. So she loves talking to me because I just say it, and she's like, yeah, that. She's like, yeah, that, whatever you just said, that's it. And I was like, yeah, because I get her. I'm her. I understand it. I completely get where she's coming from. She gets very frustrated at the world, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, the world is frustrating. That's why I don't go, no, you shouldn't. She's like, well, what do you mean, no, I shouldn't? That makes me angry that I am now. No, I know. So yeah, you should be angry. Yeah, you should be annoyed. Why shouldn't you? That's how you're feeling, right? Now, does it make sense to? Well, that's different. But if you're feeling something, it's real. Now, the reasons why you're feeling that is debatable to be true or not, or correct or not. But that's something for critical thought to do. You got to think why.
That is so true. And oh my goodness, because a really key part of any type of coping is leaning on the people around you for support.
Yes.
We are social creatures. Humans are social creatures.
We are, yeah.
We can't be isolated in these big feelings for very long, because that isolation only proves the bias of whatever we have thought. And we need to be challenged on these biases. And speaking as someone who's femme presenting and trying to develop more female friendships, because I desperately need them, and I am seeking them out every single day. I go to the dog park every single day. My challenge is to talk to at least 5 different people, not about their dog.
Yeah, that's impossible, but it's
I'm doing really well, because I met an amazing girl, and her name is Bailey, and she's amazing. And we are now very, very close, and she's so good.
I'm glad you've got a female person in your life that's positive. I'm glad.
She's so positive, but she's also so real. And so we had a 4-hour conversation at the dog park about her boyfriend who had just committed suicide and how much she's struggling. But she was like, it feels like a lot of these people that knew him just want to know him as this happy-go-lucky person. And I want to process what exactly happened. And they don't want to talk to me about it. And she felt really, really isolated. And essentially she got abandoned by these people who were supposed to be her friends. And now she has me, and she's better for it, because I am someone who is trauma informed and will talk to her about whatever she's going through, but also not confirm her biases that she is less of a person because she's going through a hard time. Because trauma is not who you are, it's what you go through. That's the whole saying of my podcast, is what you go through. And
it doesn't define you. You can identify with it, but that's a choice. Everything I've been through has not changed me in a way that is an active involuntary thing. I have all these experiences, and they've helped me understand things about myself, but they don't define me at all. I have no fear of other people or being attacked. I have no fear of anything like that. I should inherently, when you go through things like extreme violence, you think you'd be scared of going out and being in those environments. I was like, no, I've gone back to that same place I got attacked and had pizza there. Felt nothing. I just felt nothing because I've forgiven them. That was the other aspect as well. I've got to mention that I forgave the person that did it. I don't know them. They don't know me. It was said more about them than it did anything else. They're obviously very troubled. They've obviously got some problems, and I forgave them, but not for their sake, but for mine, because I deserve peace, And I think that's one of the fundamentals when you're dealing with traumas, is sometimes it's not just what you want, it's what you have to do. And one thing you have to do as a coping mechanism is accept what happened in all of its harsh reality, and then just refuse to become the victim of it. Even though you were, that's a state of experience that happened only at that time. Post that, it is down to you to embody it further. That's a choice. And that's a hard conversation people have to have with themselves. Like, I refuse to allow that to define how I react to things. Now, there is going to be elements where my body reacts, where it's instinctual. It's like a self-defense mechanism. And I have had moments where I like something like went right by my ear and it made me go like, fucking, like, because my brain remembers that, like, it's instinctual. So those things you cannot change. You can learn to get better with. And I had to explain this to somebody, like, especially people like yourself who've been through SA and grape. So I don't even know how social media works anymore with these words, but people who like been through these things is like, what men don't understand mostly, like especially like male birthed, is they don't understand that it's not the fact that they can't get past it or they can't accept it. It's the fact their body can't. I've had to explain this to so many men. It's not just, oh, get past it, move forward. Decompartmentalize it in your brain. You can do all that stuff. You can go to therapy, blah, blah, blah. The instinct is still there. It's that, no, fuck, preserve, no, get away. It's that fear. And that's what men will never understand, that who've never been through those kind of things. Now, men do go through things like that too. Of course they do, by other men mostly. But the point is, they do go through these things, and only those men can really understand that. But even then, they not the same. It's different. It's the same but different. But yeah, so that's one thing that I spoke about this recently, actually, on my TikTok. So there was the bear conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Good analogy. It's fantastic, right? And all the men that don't get it are the ones that have told on themselves. The ones that tell on themselves have told all the women are in that know that man to go, you stay over there, because they are refusing to acknowledge a reality, and that denial is dangerous. Or they're not in denial, they're just pretending it doesn't exist because they are that person. There's only two choices there, and that has been hard for men to deal with, that one. Oh, I'm not a monster. I'm like, you're capable.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that men are always capable.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced it myself, physical male violence for no reason, multiple times, two times in recent years, for no reason. Just like, I'm not a violent person at all. Like, I have only ever punched like one person in my life, and that was in self-defense. Like, and it's a conversation. It's not all. It's not all men. No, it's not. It's most, and that is the hardest thing for a man to accept. I accepted it. I grew up with two women in my life that have gone through it. My mum and my sister have both been through it. Every girlfriend I have ever had in my life has been through it. Every female friend I've ever had throughout my life has been through it. All of them. How many men have been through it? I know one. One. And that even spoke about it, because a lot of men don't talk about it when it does happen. That's a problem. But the ones that have, one. Every woman in my life that I've known, been through, been out with, etc., over my 32 years, all of them, without exception. But I only know one man. That's why it's a problem. See, and the more men that understand that, you can be part of the, well, I say solution, but part of the healing. The healing is where men accept that situation, call it out when you see it. When your bro is talking very misogynistically, that's not a joke. It's not like a bit of a silly, like, existential, like, dark joke. It's actually, they're treating that woman like they are property and an object. If you see one of your friends talking like that, you fucking call them out on that immediately, with no conversation, no hesitation. Because if you don't stop men when they're on that train of thought, it never stops. They keep going and getting worse and projecting and blaming the other sexes and things like that, worse and worse and worse. And I do think men have more responsibility to call out other men for that completely. Like, it is, I've done it myself. I've lost friends because of it, and that's the reality. And like, that's fine. They're not my friends. I cannot be friends with somebody who treats women like that. I just can't. Like, it's not a matter of like difference of opinion. When it comes to immorality and unethical like ideas and mentalities and behaviors, there is no nuance, none. Like, now you can understand maybe they're dysfunctional for all these reasons, or they have those reasons for why they're like that. Doesn't excuse it. Doesn't make them safe. Doesn't make you shouldn't have to allow or pander to that mentality, because protection of the self is important, especially with violence, as we know. And the people that are essentially enabling it by not doing it, like they are, I always say they are essentially complicit to when they actually act and do something like that. So yeah, so I just thought I had to say that because it's something that I think about a lot, and it's affected my psychology, because me and my partner have been together for 8 years, and she's been a victim of like multiple things, and I have to like deal with that, and then that's only me dealing with it. She's dealt with it her entire life, so I've helped as much as I can to facilitate an environment of comfortability and support with her, and conversation that she can be open and honest. But she's good, she's strong, she's like yourself. I know I've got my control. I know who I am, and it doesn't define my actions and your desires for the future and things. It's going to be part of your history, as you said, like it's part of your trauma, but it's not defining you. And I think she's incredible for that. Actually, this is why I said that this is why I find women incredibly powerful people, because the fact that they can go through these things and still have optimism and smile is insane to me. Like, I'm like, wow, like that. Because I'd say, like, my experience of going through physical violence, it's not the same thing, but it's a similar kind of powerlessness and victim. I was a victim of incredible violence. And I came out of that wondering what the fuck. Essentially, I have irreparable damage for the rest of my life, be it mentally and physically. And that's something I've dealt with my entire life. And I said this to every man. I said, have you been in a bad fight and you've really been hurt? I said, yeah, imagine that. But it's just mentally scars you for the rest of your life. And he's like, just like, it's bad, man. But yeah, so I digress. I got a little bit into that. I'm a little bit impassioned about this subject because it's something
I
that men should
appreciate
talk
it.
about more.
Yeah, and for those that are listening that don't know what the bear is, when there's this conversation that's going around on social media of, would you rather be alone in the woods with a man or alone in the woods with a bear? And 100% of all women are saying the bear, because there's a chance the bear will hurt you, but the bear is usually going to leave you alone. The bear is not going to touch you if you don't touch it.
At worst, it's going to kill you and eat you.
Yeah. Oh well.
The man will do worse.
The man will do worse. And
on average, and that's an average. That's statistical. That's nothing to do with personal anecdotes.
And I see all of the time on the internet of these young men
every time
will talk about rape in a way that is joking about it, or saying, oh, if you and me are the last people on earth, we got to repopulate, blah, blah, blah. And it makes me so sickened that they think that that is
the purpose of you, like that's...
Are you kidding me?
I know.
Like, I don't have any autonomy. You just think I am my uterus.
Yep.
Or whatever I can provide for you. And it's still a thing. And if you are someone listening and you think that, oh, it's just a joke, or oh, it's not every man, I want to challenge you to start to think outside of yourself for a little bit and open up yourself to the possibility of being incorrect. Because
always possible, always, no matter
it's
what.
always possible for you to have a bias that is factually incorrect. And there's always a possibility for your experience to not justify your behavior.
Yeah.
And I'll also bring this into the context of like interpersonal relationships with your friends, because a big way for us to cope as a society is to rely on other people. If you are constantly getting this feedback with other people that they don't want to be around you, maybe start to look into yourself of why. Because I had to do that within myself as a person of being like, okay, I'm putting so much effort into all of these friendships. Why am I losing friends? And I found out that it's because I don't care enough about myself. And so whether or not they recognize it, I don't value myself enough for other people to also see me as, inherently valuable.
Or positive.
Or positive, or someone that they can rely on other than like trauma dumping on me, because that's also part of the reason why I started this podcast, because I found out that I attracted a lot of people with the mindset of, Grace is someone I can talk to about these things, because I would say that I have a very welcoming personality.
I agree.
But I want to challenge people outside of that to, how can I grow? How can I overcome? How can I forgive? How can I move forward? And a lot of people either don't want to or think that they're not capable of doing that. And so that's part of the reason why I started this podcast, to be like, look at all of these other people who have gone through so many variety of experiences. Look how they have overcome in one way or another, or how they're continuing to try to overcome. And you can too.
Everyone can, believe it or not. So
you can.
So just to go back to the bear conversation, I have something to share here. So I did a thing. So there was a video that I saw on TikTok, and it was like a guy asking what's I think somewhere in Africa, I believe. And the guy's asking people, what's the youngest you would ever date? Right. And he asked this one guy, it's the first guy, and there's multiple people, and there's one woman on the video. And the first guy says 10 years old. Yeah, he's like 30. And the guy's like just confirming with him 10, like 10 years old. And he's like, you are aware that's pedophilia? And the guy just shrugs and goes, yeah. The second one is a woman. She said 13 because they're cute. Have a guess which one out of those two, all of these young men did whatabouteries with. Have a guess which one he cared more about out of those two people.
The woman.
Of course they did, because it fits the narrative that the men aren't the problem, women are the problem too. And I went, no, that's one woman out of all women, where it's most men. This was the thing that blew my head. And this is some of the whataboutery comments I'm going to read to you here. You might have to censor some of these.
I don't censor anything on this podcast, because if YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts is going to censor me, that's fine. This podcast is rated explicit.
So trigger warning.
Yes, trigger warning for you guys.
Fucking hell. Right. So Andrea Piero, his full name, his actual full name. But man, 10 is wild. At least let them menstruate beforehand. In public, he put that. Public forum. Digital footprint exists. Obviously, all the comments are like, you fucking what? Like, you what? Yeah, you're still aghast. Yep, that's kind of my reaction as well. Yeah. A grown man said that.
Sorry, guys, I'm processing.
At least let them menstruate first. Now, I'm sure as a female-born woman, women with wombs and ovaries, etc., they can menstruate at pretty much any age past 7.
Yeah.
It can happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
So in his logic, any age. But then that would require him to actually know about women's anatomy, which most men don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was a rough one. Yeah. but yeah, so many whataboutery comments, so many. One of the comments was basically saying, but women are more statistically more dangerous to abuse children. I went, okay, let's break that down. Statistically, women are more likely to verbally and neglect children. Yes, statistically. Men are more likely to rape and violently attack children. His point was, yeah, but it's mostly women that abuse. I went, yeah, but let's break it down. Like the bad, dangerous aspects, which was his entire point, is those two things that only men pretty much perpetuate. But that still got you though, apparently, according to them. I was like, no, you've proved me right. You've proved everybody right. But the whatabouteries kept happening over and over again. And again, it was from men every time. No woman, not a single woman in this entire comment section didn't agree or didn't think that it was like not bad. Like only men. Someone said, how do you know he didn't misunderstand the question? I mean, he asked him did you know that's pedophilia? And he shrugged. What the cognitive dissonant denial do you have to be in to not see that evidence and not take, like, do you know? Like, I get good. It's good to, give people a second opportunity. But man, 10. Also, he answered like that. 10.
Like thinking of myself as a 10-year-old,
The bear.
I was an egg. I was a little egg.
I was an egg.
That's how I would describe myself.
I was a spaceman.
Yes, there was nothing there, nothing up here, nothing anywhere. I just wanted the vibes. I just wanted to tie-dye everything. That's what I was obsessed with.
Oh, I see. You're tie-dyeing. So I'm going to stop reading the comments. They're horrible. And yeah, so you get the point.
It was, yeah, for those of you guys listening,
the bear.
The
worst thing a bear can do is kill you. That's it.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the monitor lizards?
The lizzies?
The monitor lizard.
No. What about
Okay, so trigger warning. So the monitor lizard that was in, I think it was some sort of, it's quite a large lizard if you don't know what it is, the carnivorous as well. It was essayed by 3 men and they passed it around and used it as some sort of play toy. A monitor lizard. And by the way, this was like one, and they're quite endangered. I wouldn't say they're endangered, but they're quite rare. And they all essayed it. Bear. I've never heard of women doing that. Don't get me wrong, women are absolutely capable of essay, absolutely. But I've never heard about women grouping up and essaying a lizard. Like, it's hard to believe that actually happened though.
Yeah, I mean, I
mental.
believe it.
Mental. Now, what would they do to a woman? Something that they think they have inherent property and ownership over because the society's educated men to think that women's only uses are there to procreate and provide for them. I always say this. I'm like, how people don't see it is insane. Like, but yeah. Welcome to the internet. Fucking hell. But these stories are bringing education. They're even though they are quite extreme, but they are unfortunately not that uncommon. And that's a hard reality to deal with. Like, as a man, like if I was a young boy, 15, 16, and I was reading these stories, I would not want to believe it either. Why wouldn't I not want to believe it? It's horrible. Like, I've had to have this conversation with people before. Like, I understand the complete self-interest to not accept the harshness of the reality you're in. To want something different, something better, something more pleasant, less accusational. They feel it as accusational. I understand it. I completely get it. But as people, we have choices to make. Just how when a war breaks out or a genocide is happening, we have a choice to make. Do we ignore that's happening because we just don't want to accept the horror of it for our own benefit, to self-preserve? Or do we acknowledge it and learn to accept that we can't do nothing about it, but we can only try? And that is the only thing we can do. there's one out of those two things, there's one that is much easier to deal with than the other. And that's why we have so much cognitive dissonance with horrible things in this world. We like, when a woman comes out about a case of SA, it's always met with the same kind of men. You know who they are. They're just like, well, how do you know she's not lying? It's like, well, how do you know she isn't? Like, where's the plausible deniability for both sides here? How about you go, you don't know? Let's go with that. That's progression, lads. Let's try that. How about we go, well, we don't know, but I hope it didn't happen. Because I don't want it to happen either. I'm hoping it never happened to this person. Because men's empathy is strange. Like when they say like they don't believe her, it's not the fact that they don't think it could have happened. It's the fact they can't deal with the concept of it happening. It fries their head. They're like, surely that can't happen to her. I don't know anyone that's happened to. I'm like, no, they've never told you. Like I've had to explain this to men. I'm like, I don't know a single woman that's been SA'd. I'm like, that's because they've not been comfortable enough to tell you. Also, not all women talk about it.
Something that really messed me up was when my fiance's name is Joey. When Joey and Hi, Joey. When Joey and I were first dating, we had a couple that we went out with, to have fun. And this guy who I had known since I was a kid because he lived across the street from me. I thought he was a great guy. I genuinely did. And then when we started going out with him and his girlfriend, I became very attached to his girlfriend. I loved her so much. She was amazing. I was just like enthralled with her. She comes from Ukraine. She was adopted as a 3-year-old, and she came over here and she rides horses. And I was just like, oh, she's just, and I would tell the guy friend all the time, I was like, please bring your girlfriend over. I want to spend time with her. Right. Because I really liked her. And she and I became very close friends very quickly, to the point where I guess this guy started getting jealous of our friendship.
Oh, yeah, that happens. Yep.
And he's like, well, why don't you ever want to hang out with me anymore? I was like, that's not the case. I just really like her because we're girls. And she and I had a sleepover one time. And so she had slept in my bed. And he was coming to get her. And I was, mind you, I was still asleep. So she was in the bed. He got in the bed in between us. And I was terrified out of my mind because I wake up and he's in our bed and he's in between us though. So he didn't even lay like beside her. He laid in between us. And so I wake up and I'm screaming, like terrified out of my mind. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like instinctually, I have 2 brothers. So I was taught how to fight. Like I know how to fight. And I punch my brothers all the time. They're adults now. We punch each other all the time. My brothers are a lot softer whenever they punch me. I don't hold back. I went straight for his nuts, as I didn't know who it was. I went straight for his nuts because I was like, this doesn't feel like my Joey. Boom, as hard as I could. And so he's now screaming. So she wakes up, she's screaming, everybody's screaming. Like, what is going on? And I'm like, why are you in my fucking bed? Get out of my bed, get out of my bed, get out of my room, get out of my room. Because also I was just wearing a t-shirt and shorts. I felt safe with her.
Pajamas, right?
Yeah, I felt safe with her. She was also in her pajamas. I'm like, how did you get into my house? Like, he's like, oh, Joey left the door unlocked.
Oh, so I just walked in. Yeah, that makes sense.
I
Yep,
just
that's a
walked
logical
in,
thing to do.
didn't call, because Joey, who's a plumber, he wakes up really early to go to work.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was freaking out. And then a few weeks later, the girl comes to me and she's like, I need to talk to you about something. And I haven't felt safe to talk to you about it before, but I need to tell you. I need to tell someone who knows him. I'm like, okay. She's like, he forces me to have sex with him. Every time I see him, he forces it. And I've told him to stop. Yeah. She's like, I've told him to stop. And when he got into the bed with both of us, I was honestly terrified for you because I thought either he was going to try and sleep with me while you were in the bed or something else. And I was like, what? I was genuinely like,
As soon as you told me about him crawling in, I already knew what his intentions were already. He's invaded your privacy already. He was
yeah,
going to go further, like, because in his head he's probably got some fantasy you two were like lesing out or something. Because this is what men are stupid. They actually do think women who are friends, they're all secretly lesing out. Like we are stupid creatures sometimes. And in his head, he had this fantasy, and the fact that she was out of his control in a potentially sexual setting, which is his way of controlling her with you, he needed to interject himself literally, and he did, in between you. So that wasn't just physical, it was like psychological. Like he actually physically interjected himself. So you are absolutely correct in your assumption that yeah.
So I brought it to Joey.
Oh fuck.
And I said, Joey, I don't want to see this guy ever again. And he's like, word, we're never going to see him ever again.
We like Joey.
We love Joey. Joey is so supportive. But Joey didn't ask any questions. He was like, okay, word. And then this girl, which I invited her over all the time, she then opened up to Joey about what happened.
Oh God.
And he got so unbelievably angry. He was like, why didn't you guys tell me? First, he said he felt betrayed because he didn't know what happened. He's like, why didn't you guys tell me? And I was like, because none of your fucking business till she tells you. And he's like, okay, fine. Let me go to the other room for a little bit because I might destroy something.
Yeah, so he wants to kill him currently. It's like, it's like
essentially that. And so he comes back and then he's like, can I hug you, to her? And she's like, yeah. And he starts crying. He's like, I'm so sorry. You ever need anything, you let me know. I'm here for you. If you ever need me to show up and be there for you, if he ever comes to your house and you don't want him there, you call me, you tell me, I'll be there. I'm so, so, so sorry.
Do you remember what I said earlier about men when they get dealt with these hard situations? They take two routes. One, they accept it, or two, they deny it. Joey's a good man.
He's a great man.
He accepted it. He accepted it immediately. You've got my blessing.
Oh yeah, he's so good. He's genuinely amazing. So he told her that, and she distanced herself from us for a little bit, which is fine. Like I never rejected her or anything like that. I was like, okay, you need space.
It's a bad thing, and you two know about it. And if some people, when they're going through stuff, they want to kind of get away from people that know, is a way of like getting that recontrol back. So it's not personal. Like, yeah.
No, it's not personal. And I was able to differentiate and be like, okay, she'll come back when she's ready.
Exactly.
And she does occasionally. She'll like pop up every so often. But she's like, she told me recently, she's like, I've been to intensive therapy about this. And she's like, I just want to say that you and Joey are a key factor in me getting therapy and me stopping cutting, because I didn't even know that she had been cutting. And I bring this all back to, please, if you're going through something, anybody listening, if you're going through something, find the people that you can be vulnerable and safe with. I know a lot of us are very few and far between, but once you find them, please don't let them go. Please invest in those relationships that invest in you. And you are so worthy of love and affection and attention and connection. You are worthy of all of those things. And when we're going through traumatic experiences, we often feel like we're not. And it's also a form of self-harm to isolate ourselves and feel like we're not worthy of a friendship.
Yeah. Self-harm isn't just physical. It's emotional, it's societal, it's like, isolating yourself is a form of self-harm. Sometimes, not always. But if you know it's not helping you, just stop doing it. Just like literally reach out, because sometimes it is going to happen. You'll reach out and they just can't facilitate it because they're busy or life's going on, or they've got their own problems and they can't do that. Don't think that as a rejection. Just sometimes they just haven't got the time. It's not personal. So that's one thing I got to put in there, because sometimes like people have come to me with their problems and I'm like, I'm dealing with my so much stuff. I haven't got the headspace to help you, and I want to. I'd love to, but I can't. Like, and that's fine, and that is valid. Like, and you should never feel resentment for anyone not being able to be there for you if you're going through a tough time. But at the same time, like, you know, it's difficult. I understand. It's a complicated, because humans are not simple. We're not. Yeah, we're pattern creatures. We have patterns of personalities, but we're not simple by any shape or form. But yeah, so we've got a little bit off our radar. That's fine. That's how this works. So, going on the back topic of traumas again. So, recently, this is going to be a rough one for me. So, Friday, I went to a funeral, and it was a very close friend of mine, and it's been difficult since then. And I thought this is a very good timing to do this, because I feel like this is another thing to talk about, and it has affected me in a way that I didn't expect. So the friend in question is her name is Jackie, and we've been friends since we were children, like 6 years old. I'm 32. That was a long time. And she was beautiful. Like, she was half Thai, Taiwanese, and half English, white. And she was tall, really tall, very tall girl, very mask, very kind of almost androgynous, you know. And she was stunning. And I loved her to pieces. She was like my best friend when I was growing up. And I loved her family as well, and her mum. I love her mum. She's just the happiest person in the world. And, you know, I moved away after what it would say it's called primary schools. That's like the after nursery, or whatever, kindergarten, after kindergarten in America, that school. And then I moved to another town, and then we met up again when we were a little bit older, you know, we're like 12, 13, 14. And we were still friends, and, you know, and we built that relationship up. And then when we become young adults, we become friends more so. Our friendship just growed as we developed as people, and we had a good friendship. And I always cared about her. I always loved her to pieces. I thought she was amazing. And she went through some horrible things, and can't talk about it here for various reasons, in case someone sees it and sues me for defamation. And it broke her mind. And she did struggle with a bit of mental health issues, but it broke her. What she went through broke her. And she was not the same person. And she suffered for years. And her family, honestly, the family are the best. They bought her a house. They supported her. They paid for everything. They made sure she was okay. You know, like, they did such good care for her. And if they ever see this, like, she was so lucky to have them. So lucky. And she knew it. She wasn't stupid. She knew. And I went to see her, and to see how she was doing, and give her some care. Like, and I had to do personal care with her. And that was difficult for me. She was mentally incapable. So she was struggling to deal with just existence, let alone daily chores. So I've had to clean a house for her, and you know, get her grocery shopping, you know. And that's something you don't expect to do as a 32-year-old man to your friend, going to physically help them survive. Do you know, like, and I felt a sense of, like, I could have done more, you know. It's like one of those feelings you get, like, and it's deluded, utterly deluded. Like, there's nothing I could have done more, because she was the one that had the problem. She's the one that had to deal with it. No matter what I did, no matter what I said, may have made it easier some days, wouldn't have changed what happens. She's still got that crippling mental illness that will only get worse. And her family knew it. I knew it. She probably knew it. And the mental health support failed her in this country. Failed her. Like, she could have maybe got some support, maybe some intense therapy, maybe something to give her a reasonable life in regards of functionality. But fortunately, this didn't happen. And I'm a very busy person, and I understand that everyone's got their own lives. And the saddest thing is she died, was it 2 weeks ago now? And that literally this week now that just passed, I was going to visit her and see how she was doing. I made plans, messaged her and all sorts of stuff in advance. And that was the last thing I said to her, I was coming today, or like this weekend. And that, even then, that wasn't enough. So without words of just like, oh, you could have done something different. That's why I say it's deluded. She knew I was coming, but that didn't change anything, you know? And this is one of the harshest things that people have to accept. I can't discuss the nature of how she passed, but sometimes you think that you can change things, but sometimes you have to respect people's decisions. You know?
Yeah.
That's the harshest thing that some people need to deal with. And on that Friday, it broke me.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Still struggling with it. I'm still struggling with it.
Of course.
Oh, God. Like, it was the strangest concept to me. Like, I've been through so much stuff, and and I've always been strong, as it were. But I have weakness too. I'm very open with that, which is good. And I didn't want to enter that chapel where she was. It fucked with my mind, and it still has. Like today, I woke up today. I had that gig on yesterday. I just couldn't get into the headspace of gig. It's like this is, how am I supposed to be normal after that? Seeing her mum was the hardest fucking thing I've ever had to do, because her mum is smiling. She's so happy all her friends have come. She's so happy that I'm there. She's giving me a hug, and she was telling everybody, like, this is one of Jackie's oldest friends. And I'm there like, fuck. Like, sort of thing. And they're like, who? And I'm like, because they don't know me. Of course they don't. Like, just their godparents, they've never met me before. And she's like, oh, he's amazing. He's done so much for her. He's come and helped her. And I'm there like, like, kind of thing. Like, what were they expecting me to do more? I start judging myself. I'm like, fuck, do they think I should have done more? It's not about me, though. I kept doing that. I was like, it's not about me, though. It's not about me at all. Like, this is nothing to do with me. And that's when you're grieving and there's loss, it's so hard not to think about the preventions and things you could have done. And all I will say, if anyone's ever been going through this, is stop. All you're doing is just making it about you. And it's the hardest thing to do. It's like, who are you to say that you are this incredible, powerful influence of incredible, control, that you can change someone's psyche? Do you know what I mean? And that, I dealt with that for a bit. I was like, no, Kieran, there's nothing you could have fucking done. And that powerlessness hurt. That hurt me. I was like, oh, fuck. And now I'm in my 30s. It's going to happen more. Not everyone's going to be able to deal with this world. And I know that. Or they can't look after themselves to the point that it ends up like affecting them medically. Because, not eating, not drinking water, not getting psychological help, things like that. Those are all things I can't do anything about. Because unless I'm in the house living with them, I can't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm just a friend visiting, which is all as is expected of me as a friend, is to see, hang out, talk, conversate, be there. But I'm not their caretaker. I'm not their life giver. I'm not their parent. And it's hard. I've been struggling with that all weekend. And it's been hard. It's been really hard.
I want to say I connect with that so much, because I watched my dad deteriorate and die in front of me. And to go to his funeral and see so many people just smiling was nerve-wracking to me. And I don't know if you felt angry, but I felt very angry.
How you, because the other aspects like how you're supposed to feel here.
Yeah.
Why is no one else feeling? How do I supposed to feel? Are they supposed to be feeling how I'm feeling? You know, that's the
Mhm.
thought that goes through your head.
Exactly.
Because my partner came with me to the funeral and she said, I didn't know how to feel. And that hit me. I was like, shit, yeah, no, you're right. There's no rules for this. There's no like how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to think. Because it's subjective to the person. Everyone's got their own relationships, understandings of loss. As yourself,
Mhm.
you've been through loss before, you know exactly how it is, how the process is. I dealt with my dad dying on a daily basis at one point, which was insane. My dad's died twice in his life, which sounds ironic, oxymoronic statement. He's died twice in his life, but and both times was I grieved. So I thought I was invincible. I thought I can handle anything. No, I'm human like everyone else. It catches you. No matter
Mhm.
how strong you think you are. I think true strength is honesty.
Yeah.
Always have. Sorry, I got a bit emotional there.
No,
Sorry.
don't ever apologize for any emotions
Oh,
because
it's not more of that. It's more of that. I just it kind of the tone went a bit. And
no, it's
not that it
good.
has to be happy. It's just I don't want it to be a bit too much of a trauma dump.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah,
That's like the whole
yeah,
purpose.
but
But
yeah.
no, it's
So
good. It's good. And I'm grateful that you opened up to me about that because I relate. I comprehend, I
yeah,
understand
I appreciate that.
exactly. And grief is very nuanced and unique for each person. And yet it isn't
Yeah,
unique at all because we'll all go through grief in our lives. And
yeah,
the only way out of the grief is through it. The only way
absolutely.
for us to recover is to actually let those waves hit us,
Yes.
let it happen, process it. There's no moving on from it. There's just a new normal.
Yeah,
There's
you
a
learn to
new.
live with it. That's it.
Exactly.
You've got to move forward and remember it because it's never going to go away. To people that deny these aspects themselves, it tortures them. How many people do you know that have lost someone that just never let it go or never like accepted it fully, and it causes dysfunction and they issues mentally with them. I know one person like that, and they're not the same. And because they've never fully accepted why and how it all happened and grieved properly, they've just become dysfunctional because of it.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
mother.
Well, yeah. Perfect example, yeah. And that,
Perfect example is my mom. I mean, she was always extremely dysfunctional, but my dad's, incident being hit by a car and his death it really feels like it only fueled her dysfunction and her delusion
oh yeah,
to think that she could just continue to live her life in dysfunction.
yeah. She pushed
And
everybody away as well,
yeah,
completely. And it's known as triple downing. She's tripled down on this control that she has, and she exacerbated and projected it more. From what
mhm.
you told me, definitely that's what I could definitely see that.
Yeah, she really did. Because I was told my entire life by my dad that I was his favorite daughter, which I'm his only daughter, duh.
Well,
Now
yeah,
he would
yeah.
tell
But
me
take
all
it
the
anyway.
time I was his favorite daughter and he loved me so much. I never doubted for a minute that my
Oh yeah,
dad
of
loved me, but
course he
I
did.
doubted and I still doubt that my mom could ever love me or have the capacity to love me. And so
Yeah,
when you're
potentially.
raised in that dichotomy of someone who loves you, who you are half of, and then someone who despises you, who you are also half of, it's very hard to rectify a concrete, secure sense of self that, I am still working very hard to understand myself, be secure in who I am, but also be secure in my relationship with my fiance, who I'm going to be married to next year. of I want to feel, this is also why we are having a longer engagement, is we got engaged on Christmas. And so we're trying to make sure that we're both secure in who we are and our individualism before becoming a unit, because we'll still be individuals, but we'd be more of a concrete unit. And we were talking.
That's good to do that.
It is.
It
we were
is.
talking about it yesterday.
Because when you're together, you can be yourself still and have your own lives, and you encourage each other for that, and you appreciate each other for that. That's very mature to do.
Yeah. And we're in like couples counseling. It's a vibe. And I was in the beginning of our relationship, we got into couples counseling, which was great. And we were having this conversation yesterday of he was sitting, his desk is over there. My work desk is right here. And then my podcast desk is like where I'm at right now. So my work desk is over there. I was at my work desk and I had just finished, your episode outline, finding all the resources that I wanted. And I sat back in my chair and I was like, we have a good little life. And he was like, it's only going to get better.
Correct.
Like, it is? He's like, yeah, it is only going to get better.
You'll get better at doing it. You'll get better at, you'll perfect it. That's the thing. People is like, people think relationship is like something that just makes sense and you immediately get it. It's something that you can work at, that you can only keep improving. I had to explain this to people. Like, people like get into a relationship and they're like, oh man, we're not how we used to be. And I'm just like, well, have you actually worked at your relationship, or did you just sort of like plateau immediately? Like, they're like, I was like, yeah, it's almost like you need to work at things to make them better. It's like an engine. You just fine tune it, improve aspects. And you can do that between each other by communicating fundamentally. See, you doing the couples counseling at the start, essentially, is the smartest thing you could do, because you will get rid of any issues of dysfunction, miscommunication problems, and any behavioral problems that you could inhibit from past experiences, past relationships, or norms. See, people a lot do that. They transfer relationship traumas, which is and it's inherent. You can't stop it. It's hard to tell you that your world is not normal or real when it's your experience. You live in it. Like, my favorite term is, a mad man doesn't know he's mad, because why would he? He's mad. And it's like, sometimes what you think is normal is not, normal, or what is healthy is not. So like, I've had people being like, oh, my relationship, blah, blah, blah. Well, we have this separate thing, we do that separately. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's good. And then they said something about like, oh, but we eat separate meals. And I went, that's odd, but okay. I mean, everyone's different. And we sleep separately. I went, that's different, but it happens. People have those, boundaries. Some people can't sleep in the same bed as someone for various reasons. That's valid. And then some people are just like, oh, he wants to look at my phone all the time. No, red flag. I said, that's red flag immediately. I said, so those other things, I said, are completely down to the communication, the people, and the relationship that's specific to them. But as soon as people want to look at your phone, that's a bad thing. See, I had to explain to someone. I said, like, the difference in the normal aspects of relationship are boundaries. Those things are boundaries. And, sleeping in different beds, having different meals, everyone has different dietary requirements, palates, flavors, nothing wrong with that. But as soon as it comes down to crossing boundaries of like privacy, that is the red flag. Nothing else in what I just said is a red flag, where some people would disagree. Some people are like, no, that means you don't love them. I'm like, no. See, you're dumping your relationship ideologies on someone you don't know. And that's your ideologies. And that's what people do all the time in relationships. So you get into a new relationship, you have just transferred all of that to this new relationship. And if you try to make that person be this person that you think that they are with all of this pre-con notion, that relationship is doomed to fail, because you have created an ideologue of who they are, not what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my opinion, though. I might be wrong on that one.
No, you're correct. No, you're actually correct, because when my dad died, a month after my dad died, my mom started dating, and the same man that she started dating, a month. And she moved this man into our house 4 months. 4 months after my dad died, she moved him in. She gave my dad's truck to this man who, mind you, is 30 years old. She's in her late 50s. Gave my dad's truck to this man.
Wow.
Says that this man is her forever. And now she's married to him. Well, she got engaged to him in September. She got married to him in December. Like, so this past September, December. And I'm like, you are the most dysfunctional. This is just only going to end horribly for you. But
Just
she,
desperate.
it's so desperate. It's so horrible. But she sent out like this group text message, but I had her blocked, so I didn't get the text message, which is vibes. So my little brother's girlfriend,
Oh God.
she had to like screenshot my brother's phone to send it to me because my brother was like, that's not gonna be on our text thread. So I'll have my girlfriend do that. But essentially, this is what she said. It's a long paragraph, but the tea is hot, so I'm gonna tell you it.
Scolded.
So she says, "My dearest children, I want to share."
All right, yeah.
Okay, I want to share my news with you. I would have loved to have you by my side, but since you have chosen to withdraw from relationship with me and exclude me from your lives, I have finally chosen to move forward with mine. So that's the first part.
Okay.
Blank and I eloped, and we are excited about starting our life together. I am forever grateful for the 23 years God ordained for me to be with your father and for the life we had together. I may never understand why he allowed all of that to happen, but I will hold on to the promises from the Bible that all of our days were written before any one of them came to be and that no one can snatch it out of his hand. Believing that, I have questioned him about why that moment, and the only reason that he's shared with me is that your dad fulfilled his life purposes. What was the purpose of Mark's life then, which is my dad's name, Mark? Someday we may see it fully, but for now, all I can make of it is that the last thing that your dad did was to tell your brother to come back home so we could finally be a family together again. Just the most bullshit that never happened. A day or two later, your dad was ripped from our lives, and I know he would grieve for what we have gone through and what has become of us, which is hilarious. I have continually sought the Lord for wisdom and discernment and prayed for all of your ongoing healing. I hope you will accept my decision and be happy for me that God has sent another man to love me with all his heart and walk with me through my grief and recovery, which is far from complete. Blank has the utmost respect for your father and the family he raised. He isn't a replacement. No one could ever take your dad's place to any of us, but he is totally committed to loving me and walking with me for the rest of my days that God has ordained by my side. I hope you will accept this and be kind to both of us. I miss you desperately and love you as he does with everlasting love. Yours always, Mama. And then she sent me a picture of her and the guy, which she got married in the same place that my parents got married. The same exact place, and on the anniversary of my dad's funeral. She married this new man on the anniversary of my dad's funeral in the same place that she married my dad.
What the fuck? It's like, holy shit. If anyone ever asks, oh, but it's your mom, you just go, no, read this. And they'll go, oh God. Yeah, that's fucking warped, mentally deranged. That's insane. That's
It's
genuine.
so deranged and
So yeah, you were correct. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a degree. I think I'm pretty clever. That's my only thing I could say. I can connect the dots that this woman is a delusional narcissist. She is narcissistic personality disorder. She is dysfunctional and she needs psychological help.
yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever needed affirmation that you're not the problem, I just gave it you.
Thank you. Hell yeah.
Like, I mean, you're just right anyway. But there's always that doubt, because and then, but wow, fuck, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, dude. It's like, yeah, that tea wasn't just hot. That was scalding. That was that was boiling volcanically.
And a lot of people are like, why are you laughing at like all of this? Because
You
this
have
has
to.
been my whole life though.
Yeah.
And so it's not new. This isn't
It's
new
not sad
news.
anymore. It's just kind of funny. It's so insane because it's unbelievably crazy. Like, and you laugh because you're in disbelief. That's what it is. People forget that. People are like, why are you laughing at tragedy? No, I'm not laughing at tragedy. I'm laughing in disbelief at the tragedy. I can't believe this is happening. It's insane. Like, people don't quite get that sometimes. People misunderstand laughing for like mockery. Like, it's not always. It's sometimes it's a nervous reaction sometimes. It's like, holy fuck, that is insane. I cannot believe that. I'm laughing because I can't believe this is actually happening. Yeah. So,
and it is
yeah,
also
yeah.
a coping mechanism to laugh
Of
at
course.
this, because
I laugh
it
at
is
everything.
the opposite of, you know, the sadness, laughter, joy,
Yeah.
happiness.
Well, happiness is right. Okay, I'm about to explain this before. Laughter and happiness is defiance to the void. The void is something that we all know is there. It's coming.
Apathy.
It's coming. The void is coming. But we laugh at absurdity. We laugh at the ridiculous indignity of humanity. We laugh at the strangeness or the irony because the void is coming and we know it. Like I always explain to people, like laughter is our way of mocking our mortality and mocking life. And if we mock life, it gives us control. It gives us a sense of like individuality and well-being within that uncontrollable, unconsented existence that we didn't want. Like I didn't want this shit. I was thrown into this world without being asking me. Now, if somebody asked me, do I want to live? Yes, fundamentally, but not everyone does. Right? I had this conversation. Like I said, whenever my parents like criticize me, I'm like, I didn't ask to be here, and they're just like, what? I was like, you know what I mean? I don't want to do this shit. I don't want to pay taxes and listen to fucking people on the news tell me what I should think. I don't want to buy products and and fund wars and genocides in different countries. I don't want that shit. Like, no one asked me. But yeah, so the absurdity of life and the existential crisis around it, like humor, laughter, I can still like laugh. I mean, I said on the Friday when it was that funeral, I was laughing afterwards and having a good time and chatting to people and reminiscing and anecdotes and stories and things like that. And it was nice. And but there were some people that were looking at us like, why are they laughing? What the fuck's wrong with them? But we have known her the most, the ones that were laughing, that we have been friends with her longer. And she had a wicked sense of humor. So she knew she would have laughed as well. That's the thing. That's the way she was. And it was strange that like everyone grieves differently and has different perspectives, but we were laughing because we were like choosing to have that moment of just appreciation and happiness in this existential dread and depression of what happens and what's just happened. Like the funeral itself, I was in pieces. Like, that was a moment where I was allowed just to let go. And I didn't want to at first, but I think it did me better for actually crying and actually expressing how I felt. And my partner said it's the first time she's ever seen me cry in 8 years. And I said, well, yeah, because that's really fucking tragic and sad. Of course I'm going to cry. She's like, why don't you ever cry all the time? I said, because I don't know how. That was sad. I thought that was quite sad. I was like, I don't really know how to cry. I don't know. I think also, I suppose because I'm on the spectrum as well, I think it's a bit difficult for me to process that aspect in the same way most people would. I do think that's a contributing factor. But when that moment was so heavy and so real, I couldn't stop. And it was a very strange thing for me. And since then, I keep having bursts of emotion, like wanting to cry. Just talking and thinking about it puts me straight back into that headspace. And I've never had that before until now. And it was weird, like very strange. I still can't get my head around that, but sorry, just thought that was relevant.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But yeah, the existential absurdity and getting happiness out of misery and darkness it helps. Like I make jokes of things. I find humor in everything. There is times where this is not applicable. Moments where somebody just tells you something tragic and the first thing in my mind will be a joke of that thing. I won't say it. It's there though. But my conscious aspect will be like, yeah, I'm here for you, blah, blah, blah. And I'll listen. It's still in there though. Because because like somebody could tell me something horrid and I'll just make a joke and I'll be like, oh, you're a bad person. But that's how my brain reacts. Like I just like life is so absurd and undirectionally chaotic that I find humor where there shouldn't be, if that makes sense. And that's my brain coping with what this bad thing has happened. It doesn't make me a bad person, doesn't make me a good person. It's just everyone's different, you know. Like so when I got attacked, actually, well, this was good actually. So when I was in the hospital, I was making jokes all the way through, making the nurses laugh and stuff like that. And that's something my dad does as well. I got that from him. I must have. So when he was going through his cancer treatments, because he had prostate cancer, it's gone now. He's in remission. So happy days. He was lucky actually, but he went for radiotherapy and all that sort of stuff. Went through like injections and things. Pretty horrible. He's a tough, very tough man. And he went through all that. But he was there and he was the light of that department. He goes in, all the people waiting to like get their treatment. And my dad's like, right, lads, let's have it. You know, let's get it on. Shoot me with a gun, all this sort of stuff, you know, like, and he brought their spirits up because he came in with such a gung-ho attitude, comes out afterwards and he's like, it was nothing. You'll be all right. It's fine. I'm, you know, and they thanked him. They were like, oh, thank you so much for that. And he was my beacon of kind of like understanding that is so important. When fear is prevalent and the unknown is prevalent, is humor and uplifting attitude, but not in a delusional sense, in an objective sense. Like you're acknowledging the bad thing and then you're making light of it in some form, but it's done in a way that's nuanced and intelligent. It's reading the room and bringing it up. And that's a skill that I got from my dad. And I'm grateful for him for that. And he's still like that now. Like, you know, he's gone through so much stuff and yet he still laughs and makes jokes and his own expense as well as others. You know, he'll like, you know, and that's something that I'm incredibly like grateful that I've experienced and at least learned from him, you know.
What would be your closing thoughts for coping?
Yes, we've talked a lot, haven't we?
We have. And I really appreciate it. I would love to have you on another episode because
I could talk about all sorts of things, yeah.
Dude, I love it. I really appreciate you, Kieran. But like, what would be your final closing thoughts to our listeners about finding their coping mechanisms that work best for them?
Right. Okay. So we try to be objective as possible here because there's a lot of personal preference and obviously certain anecdotes that I deal with. So one of the main fundamentals of philosophy and like psychology and existing within this world that is so barbarically tragic, horrible, and dark and weird, and there's no way of understanding it all, is you only have to do all of this once. That was my most fundamental cope for life, was all of this shit, we do it once and then we never have to do it again. And that sounds like a weird kind of finalital kind of like acceptance of, you know, the coming end. And it is. I'm basically saying just because things are hard now doesn't mean they always will be. And just because things have been bad doesn't mean they always will be. Like, as I said earlier, I said, you know, in America, things look bleak, but trust me, it's going to get better soon. As all things go bad, there is an opposite reaction. The positive will overcome. Always remember that. Every action has a positive or negative reaction. That's physics. You can't argue with that. That's science. But yeah, so the main fundamental one is definitely remembering all of this is temporary. All of it. These feelings are temporary. Experiences are temporary. Living is temporary. So appreciate what you have while you have it, while you're here. Because as I said, you only have to do all of this once. If you were going through immense pain right now, but you knew in 2 days that it would stop, you could tolerate it, couldn't you? You could tolerate that pain because you know it's going to stop in 2 days. That's one thing I learned quickly. If you give people a goal, this is why religion is so susceptible to people, or an end thing, they can tolerate the suffering and indignity of humanity. That's one thing I learned quite quickly. But in the same, and it sounds a bit like morbid and a little bit kind of negative, but we only have to do all of this once. Remember that. All of this once, ever. So enjoy the food, enjoy the people, enjoy the company, enjoy your friends, enjoy your family, if they're functional, as much as you can while you have it. Because again, all of this just a one time. It's like, so that would probably be my closing kind of like coping thing. Sounds a little bit like I'm giving up, but it's not.
It's not. I'm gonna have
No.
you on another episode.
Yes.
I have a feeling that everybody is gonna love you so much.
I hope so.
And all of the comments are gonna be like, bring him on again, make him a co-host, bro. They're all gonna be going crazy. But I really, Kieran, I really appreciate you. I appreciate
Likewise.
all that you've gone through, everything that you've shared with me. I just want to thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable with a complete stranger all the way across the pond.
Yeah, right.
Who actually cares about you, actually wants to see you succeed. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for coming on, sharing your story. I'd love to continue to reach out and talk to you about other stuff and also have you on again. I would love to make you a bracelet. That is my business.
That'd
It's
be
called
amazing, yeah.
Gracelets. I make handmade beaded crystal jewelry. So I'd love to make you and your partner something.
Should
So
love that.
if you will message me like what
Yes.
kind of crystals you guys like, I got you. So this is one that I made for myself.
That's
But
cute.
it's sandstone because I love sandstone. So yeah, just let me know. I really appreciate it.
We'll do. Basically
Thank
anything
you.
black, really.
Oh yeah, onyx,
Yeah, yeah.
obsidian. I got
Yeah.
you.
Anything like that. Yeah, but honestly, thank you again for having me on. I just appreciate to actually have a space to talk about these things in a public setting with, even though you say you're a stranger, but we're very similar because we're both human. We've both been through things. So people like to forget, even though like you are American and I'm in the UK, we're still human. Like people forget that. And these moments are exactly what we need more of, is where we're communicating directly and clearly and going, God, we're the same. I'm like, yeah, we are. We've been through similar things. Because the human condition is something that we all experience and go through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah. Once again, thank you so much for having me. I'd happily be on another one. I love talking, as you noticed. And whatever the subject, I'm sure I've got some weird, random factoid or strange opinion about it.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, thank you, Kieran. Thank you. Thank you. I will see you later, my dude.
Thank you for having me again.
If you're watching us over on YouTube, here are our memes of the week, carefully curated by the amazing people over on our Discord server. Let's get into those memes. At the end of every episode, we spin our wheel of emotions to learn a new feeling and how it correlates to trauma. So here's our wheel. Let's zoom on in. Ooh, ooh. Disapproval, judgmental, loathing. I think we did that in the previous episode, so we're going to spin again. Okay. Confused, surprised, disillusioned, perplexed. When it comes to how we're coping with trauma, it may be very hard to recognize first what we're going through and accept what we're going through. We may be feeling really confused. So I'm going to give you some coping tools that I found on the National Alliance for Mental Illness, which is called NAMI. You can use the window of tolerance. The window of tolerance, or WOT, is a concept as a way to identify and talk about your current mental state. Being inside your window means that you're doing okay and can function effectively. When you're outside of the window, it means that you've been triggered and you are experiencing a traumatic stress response. Initially, you might have a small window, which means you have the limited capacity to process and stabilize when presented with difficult information or reminders of traumatic events. You may be more likely to have flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, high anxiety, and emotional shutdown, such as numbing, or panic, anxiety attacks, disassociation, and feeling confused and overwhelmed. Your window expands as you develop tools to stabilize your feelings, which increases your capacity to handle more difficult information, emotions, and physical stimuli and sensations. The ability to handle means that you can stay in the present moment. You know where you are, you know who you are with, what date and time it is, and you are aware of your 5 senses. This is coupled with being able to feel emotions and not be overwhelmed by them. You are present in the moment and you can think and feel at the same time. So breathe slowly and deeply. It's a free tool that you can do anytime, any place. I like to use the breathing in square, which for the count of any seconds, let's go with 4. For the count of 4, you inhale for 4, you hold for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold for 4 seconds. And you just repeat breathing in that square until you start to feel more regulated. You can also start to validate your own experience. Talking about like, yeah, this is shitty. I just went through a really bad thing. I just went through a really bad breakup. I don't feel great. I feel sad. Start to label how you're feeling and then focus on your 5 senses. Though 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you start with sight. So if I was working on it, oh, I see my little dude right here, right? My little guy. Let me zoom out so you can see him too. This little guy, I see him. I see the flower right here. I see the flower painting. I see the Trauma Dump podcast logo. And I also see the feelings wheel. And then you work down. Okay, 4, the senses of hearing. Okay, what am I hearing right now? I hear the buzz of the air conditioner. I'm hearing my own voice. I hear my computer whirring. I hear the birds outside. And then you work to the senses of the skin. I can feel my shirt on my body. I can feel my curly hair. I can feel the fabric of my pants. And then you work to taste. Okay, what am I tasting right now? I ate a cookie earlier, so I'm still tasting the remnants of chocolate. Okay, and I need to brush my teeth. I'm tasting my teeth. I need to go brush them. Brushing your teeth is also a good way to start grounding yourself. And then the last one is smell. You can interchange taste and smell if you want to. Some people prefer to. I have a bunch of candles in the room. I smell the candles. Oh, my dog is a stinky. I smell my stinky dog. So those are some ways for you to cope with whatever you're going through. Just a couple ways to help you out. Make sure that you are practicing self-care. Okay, guys? Self-care is super vital in any type of experience that you've gone through. You are worth the effort it takes to get better, and you deserve to take care of yourself. Okay? So please start to support yourself in that. All right? If you'd like to support our podcast, we have a Patreon. Different tiers can get you a bracelet like this one, which is a handmade bracelet made by me, Grace, or you can get a sticker like the one on the back of my computer. You can also support us by going to our bonfire, where you can get custom apparel designed by yours truly. Both of those links are in our description. Any support helps us out a lot. So if you feel compelled to, please like, subscribe, share the show with your friends. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show. It really helps us out a lot, helping you grow, helping others grow, and helping all of us become more trauma informed. Remember, you are capable of a fulfilling life in spite of your circumstances and your trauma. May you rise again from the ashes and be filled with peace, hope, love, joy, and understanding. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.